Hello, recording in progress. I want to welcome you to ARC. I am really looking forward to seeing what your goals and ambitions are for this year and helping you make them happen wherever we can. So just again, congratulations. And please reach out at any time if there's anything that I can do to help, or if you just want to know where to go to somewhere, please just let me know and I'll do everything I can to assist. And now we can start the formal proceedings of the day.
Anna's trying to find her unmute button. There we go.
I tried to do it from the screen, but it didn't work. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our 2021 SRC Inductions. My name is Anna. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the ARC's admin officer for board and committees. You probably start receiving a lot of emails from me the following weeks. And with us from ARC, we have also Joel, Laura, and Sherry, but I will let them introduce themselves when the time comes. We will start our inductions with the acknowledgement of country with Laura. I would like to invite you to do it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anna. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're incredibly well and really excited for the induction this morning. I'd like to start by acknowledging the lands and waters that we're all calling in from today. I'm currently on the lands of the Bejigal people of the Eora Nation, and I'd like to pay my respect to elders past, present. I'd also like to extend that respect to all Indigenous people in this call today, and definitely encourage you to mention the land that you're calling in from as well. I'd also like to recognise that sovereignty was never ceded, and this always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Thank you, Laura. So a bit of housekeeping. We'll go through to the agenda in a bit. So we're going to have breaks and we'll explain the timings. We might finish a bit earlier because I think it's good for everyone, but we'll see how the presentations will go. Also, I know everyone's really tired with the digital inductions and will come in person, but if you want to have your cameras on, this will make it a bit more interactive. However, we want you to have your mute button on just in case there is any background noise. And please use the chat function to write any questions you have. However, we'll allocate time at the end of its presentation for questions. And this is today's agenda. So we'll start with an ARC overview and introduction by Laura, and then we'll move to the ARC departmental introductions. So we have invited some ARC staff to present their departments. Moving to ARC legal introduction by our solicitor, David. And then we're moving to UNSW introductions by Tom and Ionica. We're going to have a break, a 10 minutes break and then we're moving again, SRC charter overview, council background and continuity. And then the council vision, which is this session will run supported by Mitchell McBurden, which is ARC's marketing and digital manager. I always messed up his title, apologies, Mitch. Then we're going to have a lunch break, which will be half an hour. And we're coming back with the handover session between the outgoing and incoming office bearers, finishing with the SRC Insider, which is the funnest part of this induction, admin and budget. I'm sure everyone is really excited. I'm excited. Our presentation is really fun. And then we have a recap, which won't be half an hour, but we have allocated half an hour in case we have questions to do. Probably would be like up to 10 minutes. So we're expecting to finish before 3 o'clock. And first on the list, Laura, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Anna. So I'm Laura Montague and I'm a Barkinji woman and the ARC chair this year. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently studying a law arts degree. I'm in my 4th year, so almost done, but not quite there yet. I got involved in ARC, I think, much like you, because I was really, really passionate about the organisation and went through the colleges and had quite a bit of involvement there and, you know, was really fortunate to get elected to the board last year and now am chair this year and really look forward to working with you. I think you've all done an extraordinary job already and I really look forward to sort of continuing on the amazing work that Tom has this year and I'm sure many of you have already done as well with ARC and now on SRC. So that's really exciting. I'll tell you a little bit about ARC itself. I'm sure that you all have a pretty strong understanding, but it's always nice to have a bit of a refresher as well. So ARC was established in 2007, and it's, I'm sure all of you know this, but it's not an acronym, it's ARC with a lowercase r and c. I think it's just really important to try and remember that one because it does confuse people sometimes. And we're also a company limited by guarantee, which essentially means that we're regulated we have legal duties underneath the Corporations Act, and we're also considered a charity under the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission. So we have to sort of abide by particular rules and obligations as well. We are completely separate from UNSW, but we have to remember that we do work with them really quite closely, and we do rely on them with our funding agreement. And we also have support under the Student Services and Amenities fee. So in regards to the funding agreement, that extends until 2025, which seems quite far away, but it's really important to maintain that relationship and make sure that we're working really quite closely with them and, you know, maintain that really, really strong relationship. Next is the ARC strategy. And I think it's really important to draw back to this and remind yourself as much as you possibly can. I actually have it written up. And it's just a really great place to come back to if you're not entirely sure how to make a particular decision. You can find all of this information on the ARC website as well. But our mission is to create the best student experience. And I think, you know, that's such a fantastic mission, and it's a great place to come from, particularly as the SRC, because, you know, that's what we're here to do, I think, at the end of the day. And our strategic priorities and core values really align with that. So the strategic priorities are to have the best clubs and volunteering, be the best art we can be, and be committed to the future. And as you can see, the core values are to put students first, embrace and drive change, be better, deliver more, have fun, listen, and always be a team. And I think that, you know, as the SRC, those are really, really great sort of core values to have, because it's so important to work together collectively and to have fun. I think that's such an important one. You know, you're at the start of, you know, your journey on the SRC, and I think that there's so much to be achieved and there's so much fun to be had. So yeah, that's a good one to remember. There are really sort of essential core expectations when on the SRC. I think that, you know, at the end of the day, you want to be a good human anyway, but, you know, making sure that you're treating all ARC staff and students with respect is extremely important. As much as you might think that you're representing yourself in particular decisions, you are absolutely representing the SRC and ARC as an organisation as well. So make sure that whenever you're sort of interacting with people, that you are trying to be as absolutely respectful as you possibly can be. And that extends to when you're communicating with people at events or being involved with other things that have to do with the university as well. I think that, you know, you are quite recognisable now that you are on the SRC, which is incredibly exciting, but also a big responsibility as well. So it's important to just keep that in mind, and also to make sure that you're not acting on your own personal agenda. I think that you're representative of an entire student body, and a very, very big one at that. So it's really important to draw back to that and make sure that you're not just talking on behalf of a certain subgroup of the student body, you're trying to talk on behalf of everyone, which can be incredibly difficult at times. But, you know, I think it's important to do the very best that you can in that area as well. So I think the next slide is about the board, and I think a lot of people know that the board exists but don't exactly know what entirely it means or how it's structured. So we are our responsibility is to focus on the bigger picture of ARC, and we're comprised of 15 directors. So that includes Shelley as the CEO, 2 alumni directors. We're currently looking for 1 alumni director at the moment. And we've got 2 UNSW staff directors, And we have the Postgraduate Council President as an ex officio member, and the SRC President also as an ex officio member, as well as 8 student directors who are elected by the ARC members. So the reason that we have SRC and PGC presidents on the board is because they're so essential to sort of informing us of what is going on among the sort of student collective, and bringing all of the, ideas and opinions and perspectives that you as an SRC bring. So they're an incredibly vital voice within the board, and are really, really sort of, their voices are highly regarded, because we know that they're representative of a lot of students at UNSW as well. So we also have affirmative action in place on the board, which means that every year we have 4 directors elected, and 2 of those are female, so 2 of them are female, and that really sort of creates a great sort of, I guess, broad range of perspectives of the university and what's going on among students as well. I think that's all I want to say on that one. Thank you, Anna. So the board is structured with, we have subcommittees on the board, and that really sort of helps us to make sure that we're getting the breadth of information that we need to make really well-informed decisions, because matters often, or issues that arise often, start off in each of these subcommittees, and we have a discussion, and then they're brought to the board meeting after they've been really well considered, and we all have a very strong understanding of what's going on. So we have myself, you can't see my mouse, but myself as chair, and then we have, thank you, we have Shelley as CEO, and then all of our student directors, alumni directors, university directors, and ex officio. So I'm not sure if everybody knows each of the board members, but Jess Lasky is our Director of Finance. So she leads the finance subcommittee. We have Jacqueline Price, who is one of our first year directors, and so is Oliver Pike. He runs audit and risk. He's the Director of Audit and Risk. We have Helena Yi, who is the NOMS and REMS director, myself, Mehek, who's also a first year choral, and Kyra, who's the SDC convener. And then Nayonika and Joshua are our ex officio directors over here, and Lee Dunlop, Aaron, James are our, we don't call them adult directors, but they're our they finished their degrees, essentially. Alrighty. So a little bit of information about the board subcommittees I think is quite valuable, because, they all have extremely important roles, and they are quite different. So our finance subcommittee is pretty self-explanatory. They go over a lot of the budget and do a lot of sort of work in that space, and make sure that, all of our everything aligns and matches up, and they work quite closely with Shelley particularly. So our nominations and remuneration subcommittee is really in charge of the development and implementation of processing and board performance, and making sure that everything is running really smoothly there. We have the SDC committee, which is the Student Development Committee, and they are sort of in charge. They work quite closely with the SRC and PGC, as well as the IRC, and are quite a student-facing role, which is incredibly important as well. And we also have Audit and Risk, which is responsible for risk management and looking over policies and practices and that sort of thing. And then we have the SRC, PGC and IRC as well, who we work quite closely with to sort of get the best understanding of what's going on among students as possible. So in regards to contacts, I think it's extremely important that you go to Nayonika first and foremost. We want to make sure that you are as autonomous as you can be, and, are able to sort of, if you want to go to Nayonika first, that's amazing. But in the same breath, always come to Shelley and I if you have anything that you need or want to talk about. We're more than willing to set up a meeting or have a coffee and have a discussion about what you want and need, and are seriously available, you know, if you need us. For any sort of admin related issues, Joelle and Anna are absolutely fabulous and can answer almost any question that you have, big or small. They're really fantastic and a great sort of two people to go to within ARC. I think that the last thing that I'll say on this one is that in regards to the media and any sort of media comment, make sure that you go to your SRC president or Shelley and myself before sort of any official communication is made, just so we can make sure that everything's okay. But that's pretty much it from me. I think if anybody has any questions, feel free to put your hands and I'll try my best to answer.
Thank you, Laura. Let's see if anyone has any question. Can't see any hand. No. Okay. Thank you, Laura.
Not a problem. Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you, everybody. And best of luck with the year ahead. I think it's incredibly exciting and I really look forward to seeing all the amazing things that you achieve.
Thanks, Laura.
So next on the list, we have our departmental introductions. So let's see that everyone is here. Yes. Yeah, I can see you. You're here. Okay. Yeah. Know your hands. And so I think the person who is starting is Mitch. Mitch is here. I can't see Mitch.
I don't think they're here.
Yeah, they're not here. Okay, Jason, would you like to go first? And I will make you co-host to share your screen as well.
Can do, thanks, Anna. Hello, everybody. My name is Jason, and my role at ARC is the head of venue and events, which in practical terms for most people in the SRC means that I look after the Roundhouse. The venue and events team is responsible for creating a hub at the Roundhouse for student engagement and supporting the SRC through the provision of event spaces. Our staff can offer guidance and support for your events and programming, and we can also offer infrastructure and resources to support any of the event programming that you are creating. Roundhouse fits into ARC by creating revenues, which we generate from hiring out the venue, from UNSW clients to external clients, and also getting revenue from food and beverage at the bar and Thirsty Burger. Our real key driver at Roundhouse is to create a communal space for students to be able to connect and also to provide discounted food and drinks. So we really do encourage you to work with the staff that are here to get support for any of the events or programming that you're looking to create in 2022. There's 6 different areas that make up the Roundhouse. The most well-known is probably the Unibar, providing drinks, but obviously there's also Thirsty Burger, which is the food outlet next door. There's our student events programming team. So we have 3 full-time event managers and coordinators who both create content for the campus, but also work as facilitators to support students who are looking to create events on campus, whether it's in the Roundhouse or anywhere across campus. So we've got human resources here that we can support your events with in terms of guidance, ideas, advocating to university and estate management. So that's a really good resource for SRC to tap into. As I mentioned on the previous slide, we also have commercial events. So we hire the venue out to external providers and also the university. Additionally, we also have a production manager full-time. So if you need some support from an AV point of view, maybe you need some DJ gear, a PA, a microphone. If you've got something going on at library lawn or alumni lawn, we can support you with infrastructure there. And we also have, we work very closely with Mitch's marketing department, and we have a marketing coordinator embedded within our team. So if you're looking for support in terms of getting your message, your event out there on social media or on web platforms. We can also help in that regard by working with Sharon, our marketing coordinator, to try to support you in terms of the way that you get your messaging out to students so people are aware of your events. So that's a brief summary from me. So it's bar, kitchen, production, and events and marketing. All are there to support everything that SRC does. And we're really looking forward to working with all of the committee next year. Obviously looking to put lots more events on than we've been able to do in the last 18 months. Does anybody have any questions for me about Roundhouse or venue and events generally?
I don't see any hands.
I have a quick question.
Great. Go on, Yonika.
Sorry, in terms of the SRC hiring venues and things like that, what does that work like? Do we pay? Is it free? How does the whole model work if we have to hire things out?
It's a good question. It's free. If we have the space available, then it's free for SRC to book in, whether it's using the main concert hall, or we have 8 function rooms upstairs. We've got a small bar upstairs that often gets used by SRC and PGC. And we also have a couple of study lounges or collaboration lounges that can be used as event spaces. So it's all free to use for SRC, just needs to be booked in with our coordinators, and obviously subject to availability, but it's a resource that's here for you to use, and we really actively promote working with our team to use it, because that's what it's there for.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Any office bearers? You can ask them questions later on, but if you have them now, it's good to get it out of the way.
I can see Nick has his hand. Yeah.
If Nayonika wanted to have a bit of a rave and stuff, is that possible? Like if she got the DJ decks set up, that be on the cards?
The word rave makes me quite uncomfortable, Nick. Quite uncomfortable. I'm just going to get some coffee. Just hold my coffee cup here.
Okay. In case you need to spit take or something.
Yeah, that's one genre that I try to steer clear of. If you're meaning rave in the broader kind of having a good time with DJs kind of point of view, then we would fully support that. We've got DJ kits. We've also got spaces, large and small, that we can use to make that happen. We've got portable and fixed lighting. Like, we can put on a great show.
Yeah. Cool.
But it won't go till 6 in the morning.
Yeah, true. It's probably not for the best. People need to study.
Nayonika? I go to bed early. Okay. Look, if you do have more questions from the team, if you need to find us, we're now back on campus about 50% of the time. We're back on campus full time, obviously, next year. Our offices are located at the top of the stairs inside the Roundhouse. So when you come up to the top of the stairs, just on the right-hand side, there's an office there. All the full-time Roundhouse staff are there. Don't need to make an appointment. Just come in, have a chat. We'll help.
Thank you, Jason. Next on the list, we have Yao. Can I see you? Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name's James, or Yao, or you probably need to ask for Yowie because no one knows me as James around campus. I've been here at ARC for many, many years, and I was a student for many years before that. It took me 7 years to do my master's degree because I was having so much fun at UNSW that I studied part-time and started working. So I spread my degree out for as long as I could. But I say that because I think throughout my time as staff and as a student, I saw the impact and the value that SRC plays. So I think I think I just want to say that, you know, the roles that you guys will be playing is appreciated, and you're drawing a great history of some great students that have been in these roles in the past. So that's my way of buttering you guys up. My title is Director of Student Engagement. So I oversee sport, volunteering, clubs, and art and design. But I think those are areas that if you have any thoughts on, we're always very happy to hear about it and talk about it. But as mentioned, I think between Nayonika, Anna, Joelle, Laura, and Shelley, I think those are probably the best avenues to talk to first, they can get in touch with me, and we can facilitate that. That's the long and short of it. I don't want to take up more time, but I'm here for questions if anyone has any.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Can see any hands? No. Okay.
I'm indifferent to raves if that was going to be a question. So.
I'm just going to like put it out there as a blanket statement. We'll have no raiders, no raves in this SRC. So Jason has nothing to worry about. I'll get on the decks with Nick, but that's about it. No raves here.
Okay, great. So thank you, Yaoi. Next on the list is Luke.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I once went to a rave, you'd be surprised to hear. It was a long time ago. It was a gramophone and things like that. Anyway, moving on. I'm Luke. I'm the Director of Corporate Services here at ARC. I've been with ARC about 1.5 years, all of it, or the vast majority of it, spent in lockdown. So it is nice to be back in the campus, on the campus today, and back in the office. I've got a team of 7 staff in corporate services, and it's kind of like the backbone of the organization. So we deal with all finance, the IT, the HR, the payroll, and of course, the workplace health and safety. Finance for us, it's been another extraordinary year with obviously the revenue generating parts of ARC being shut for most of it. But we've got a lot of regulatory and financial obligations that continue no matter what, that we have to keep rolling. Our big piece of work now is our audit for 2021, which has just started and will roll into the beginning of 2022. Payroll, so we've got about 100 casual staff and 47 permanent weekly paid staff that we process. In IT, we've got a massive project around cybersecurity the remainder of this year and into next year, working with UNSW to improve our cyber security across the organization, and also rolling out equipment to support our staff as they remote worked for the majority of this year. HR is a huge part of what we do, obviously training and development for our staff, wellness, guidance and support. And we've just done our climate and culture survey, which is looking really good and shows that ARC is once again a phenomenal place to work. And I'm sure you'll see the results of that soon. Flexible working for all our teams is continuing, but some of our staff will obviously return to campus as things reopen. We're a team that's split remote working and some people coming into the office, and that will improve a little bit in next year as some staff come back for a few days a week. But the best way to get hold of us is just drop us an email or on Microsoft Teams for anything related to the department, or always happy to have a chat or go to a rave. That should be interesting. Anyway, thanks for your time. I'll let you go.
Thank you, Luke. Any non-rave questions to Luke? No? Okay, cool. Thank you, Luke. Next on the list is Shelley.
Hi, everyone. Just as a side note, I used to actually have raves at the Roundhouse when I worked there, and I spent one 10-hour rave hiding under my desk because I just hated it so much, but it's fine. So we have invited most of our team members that you have some capacity to, or you will interface with over your course of the SRC, but that is not the entirety of the ARC department. So I just want to touch on a few that aren't here today, just for your reference. Some big components of our organization are obviously to drive revenue. So our 2 big revenue generating departments are our graduation and gift shop, which facilitates all of UNSW merchandise on campus, and also our sponsorship and advertising department. We don't have much interface with those departments with the SRC, but if you ever needed anything from those areas, we can definitely support that. And additionally, we have a number of service departments, things like building services, etc., that help keep ARC running smoothly. So just wanted to touch on a few that aren't going to be here presenting today. All really valuable aspects of the organization, but often not so student facing. But if there's any questions on anything there, happy to take them. If not, handing over to the next person. I find it very confronting seeing myself on the shared screen looking back at me. It's quite horrifying. So I'm just going to move on now.
Thank you, Shelley. Any questions for Shelley? No hands? Okay, so we can move to Mitch.
Thanks, Anna. Hey, everyone. My name is Mitch, and I have the illustrious title of Worst Mullet at ARC at the moment. Luke, I'm sure will try to catch up with me, but it's not going to make it. I'm sorry. My role at ARC is to look after marketing. So we do lots of kind of communications, advertising, social media, print signage activities as part of the big, vibrant student organization that we are. From my perspective, looking after you guys as the SRC, we are a service department. So you can request for us to create things for you. You can request for us to source merchandise for you. We can look into signage for you. We can do lots of fun things for you, make videos, take photos, lots of different things. I guess the main note and warning is that we try to balance all of our jobs across the whole organization. So we can't say yes to everything, but we will try to say yes to as many things as we possibly can. I'll be getting in touch with people very soon to hear about what you might like to get ready for O Week. We've done stickers and business cards and cool signage and t-shirts and tote bags in the past as well. I think we have a really cool opportunity coming into 2022 for, after so much disruption, I think there's a really high appetite for students to get involved and to make the most of their time at university. And I think getting involved in all of the wonderful SRC and collective activities that you guys undertake is such an awesome opportunity for students to find a community and for them to find belonging. So really, really excited to support you in achieving those ambitions as well. If you ever want to find us, our office is called The Bunker. It's under the Bassett stairs. You're more than welcome to come visit anytime. Shelley's wonderful dog, Kevin, frequents that office as well. Yeah, I guess another hat that I wear in the organization is that I do connect with a lot of different UNSW departments, so like future students or EDI, sometimes with like central services as well. So if you're ever on like a fact-finding mission and you want any extra information or context or anything like that, I'm more than happy to jump in and help you where I can. Shelley knows way more than I do, but I know like a little bit, and if you want to talk to me, that's totally fine. And I just also remembered, like, sometimes marketing will reach out to you guys to collaborate on various events and activities too, so that we can like make the most of an awesome synergy. So like, for example, Mardi Party is an awesome queer collective gone roundhouse event that we host every year. So there's going to be lots of awesome opportunities to interact and collaborate. All questions are super welcome. We'll go through some marketing stuff at a later date that's a bit more specific, but yeah, happy to help anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. There is a question if there is a dog there today at the bunker. No, he's not here today. Okay.
Oh, your audio cut out for a second there, Anna.
Oh, okay. So I'm not sure what you heard. Okay, are there any marketing questions for me? Mitch, when is the best time to get in contact with you regarding O Week, and if they have any O Week requests?
That is such a good question, Anna, and the answer is ASAP. There is a few like supply issues in terms of getting things printed on scale. So like printing's not so bad, but tote bags, stickers, merchandise, any of those things that you want to spend budget on, we need to get the ball rolling. Like what we do is we'll get quotes for you, we'll get you to approve the quotes, then we'll get it designed up, we'll get you to approve the design, and then we get it sent to print. So it's never as easy as just like off we go and it arrives tomorrow. It's quite an involved process. I'll be reaching out for our main piece of collateral, which is the various collective business cards, which is kind of like a flyer, but I think it's a really handy way for students to connect with you. I think because we've had a bit of a disrupted couple of years, you might actually have quite a few left over in your office as well. But if you have any ideas that are beyond like the normal, which is the business cards, drop me an email as soon as possible. We'll get the ball rolling, but also I'll be emailing all the SRC as well. So we're trying to keep each other accountable from both directions.
Thank you, Mitch. Nayonika has a question.
Yep. What's the turnaround time for marketing projects like? And apart from the week stuff, which I will get in touch with you about because I know we have to get it out of the way ASAP.
Yeah.
Good luck with me for exams. Everything's going on, but crisis. Yes, for OBs and everyone else, what's the turnaround time like?
Yeah. I believe that we're going to do a marketing workshop, like specifically, and go through all of the different the ways that you get in touch with us and the various types of merchandise. But as a rule of thumb, if the job goes in with 2 weeks notice, we will definitely get it done on time. Anything from there, we're trying to balance it with other priority projects. So typically, if you have an event in a month's time, that's a really good time to get the marketing job in so that we can turn around as many assets like, Facebook cover photos and all of that kind of stuff, because we'll turn that around in 2 weeks, which will give you 2 weeks of promo for the event. So 2 weeks is a good rule of thumb.
Is there anything you don't help us with in terms of marketing?
We can't do like high production video creation. We really try to keep it to short, sharp videos just because it takes a lot of resources to create long videos. That's not a rule for the SRC. That's a rule for all of ARC. We try to avoid really long videos just because it's a bit more impactful to have a short, snappy video than a long one. It's mostly about the volume of work, not necessarily about the types of jobs. Yeah. Shelley, do you have anything to add to that? No. Okay, cool. Yeah. It's mostly about the volume of work. So the more notice, the better.
Thank you, Mitch. Any more questions? Also with the marketing workshop Mitch mentioned, we will try to arrange this. I think we said Mitch with the new year, like January. Yeah, in January. And we'll see if it will be in person or a hybrid mode, we'll see. But yeah, we'll try to plan this before all week starts, so you get an idea about marketing and you're ready actually for all week. Do we have more questions or Mitch, anything else to add? So what if we have many holidays planned in January? That's great. Enjoy your holidays. We'd love to go holidays. So as today's session, which we record the session, so it will be available to you. We are going to record that session too. But also, like, you can always ask like your general secretary or president if you have questions. And we speak about that a bit later. But admin related questions you can ask us. But we'll show you have created like a website where you can find all the details there and all the information. So hopefully this will streamline everything. That's it. Yes, and also again on the admin introduction, we will show you what you can find today's staff's like contact details. If you have any questions to them, so it's everything in one place and you can access it. So if you have like direct questions to them, you can email them. Anything else, Joel? Do you have something? Okay, Yowie, do you have a question?
I was just going to add, like, ARC reception's also here, like, for just general questions. If you can't get into a certain room or you're waiting for a package or so forth, like ARC reception is a good first point of contact just for any general questions, and they can normally either give you the answer or refer you to the right person. That's all from me.
Thank you. Joelle, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't. I was going to say David is due for his presentation, but we have finished 5 minutes early, so we could give everyone a break now and let the executive team head off and enjoy their day. And then when we come back, we can start with David's legal introduction.
Yeah. So yeah, it's 5 minutes early. Yay. So yeah, go grab a quick coffee or tea or water. You don't have time for a rave party, definitely. 5 minutes.
And thanks, exec, for joining.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day all. Bye.
Thanks. We'll be back in 5 minutes at 9:50ish.
I am worried about this SRC's commitment to throw a rave. I do not know if I should be concerned.
Good to go.
Go for gold, Dave.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you if we haven't met before. Hope you had a reasonable, very early break. So my name is David. I am part of the two-person legal team with ARC. I'm going to actually share my screen if I can manage to do that, because I have a slideshow. Just give me one moment. Let's see how we go. Is that actually working, Anna?
Yes, it does. You can see it. Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay. Hello, everyone. Congratulations on being elected to the 2022 SRC and all the very best. Hope you have a wonderful year and achieve great things. So I'm one of the departments that you might have some somewhat of an involvement with or connection to, because we've always had quite a lot of overlap with the SRC and the PGC in our various functions. There's a lot of students come to us with with issues that they're experiencing, and they identify a perennial problem within the university or within government or wherever else. And it's great to be able to brief the SRC and the PGC on those emerging issues, and have your voice actually speak to the powerful about what needs to change. So I'm going to actually run through what the different services we provide the students at UNSW, and also what we can provide to you and the staff at ARC as well. So we've got two main areas that we deal with. We provide a generalist legal service. So Linda and myself are both solicitors, have been for a very, very long time now. And we specialize in a few different areas, and we basically leave it open to students to come to us with most other concerns they have. If we can't deal with something, we'll find someone who can. And these are the main areas in our job roles: general legal advice, a lot of Centrelink advice, a lot of assistance with university issues and lobbying the university on policy matters. We occasionally get a chance to make submissions to government if there's something that's in the pipeline that that's relevant to the higher education sector or that impacts tertiary students. We also provide an emergency accommodation service, which is fairly crappy, but it's the best that the university can provide, I guess, which is in the Goldstein apartments. And we also give quite a lot of advice to ARC staff, and that's in things like defamation in publications and copyright and contracts and club and society issues when they have contracts or when they have difficulties. We're always open to talking to our colleagues about issues that that they should be careful of. These are the main legal areas that we work in. Tenancy, not surprising, is the biggest one overall. Anything to do with social security is generally fine. See an awful lot of that. We do a little bit of criminal law. It's not the biggest area that we touch in because it's such a complex and specialized area. But we can certainly give some general assistance. A lot of traffic offences and a lot of things involving cars, harassment, discrimination, a lot of workplace matters. So the most common ones are underpayment of wages, non-payment of superannuation is a really big one. unfair dismissal and unlawful dismissal occasionally comes up. And students also want to get employment contracts reviewed before they sign them. So we'll often see graduate students, just before they're leaving university, wanting a second pair of eyes run over an employment contract. My biggest personal area is immigration. So I trained as a migration agent as well. So all the international students, who are looking at staying in Australia on the graduate visa or looking at permanent residency, we see an awful lot of those each week. And there are the other things there like financial issues. And we also do a lot, or we did when we were actually in person, a lot of witnessing of documents and signing statutory declarations and things like that. And this is what we do as far as the university is concerned. So a lot of students come to us with concerns about decisions that have been made. They want, excuse me, sorry, they want to appeal misconduct outcomes or appeal fee remission outcomes or special consideration decisions. They might want assistance on responding to, if they're postgraduate and their PhD has gone awry, they might want advice on how to respond to a show cause notice, so so the candidate doesn't get terminated. And a few other things there, sometimes accommodation related issues, concerns about one student's behavior in relation to another, that comes up a lot as well. So a lot of university related stuff, which does keep it very interesting. And, I think the uni does respect the input that ARC has generally into what they're doing, into policies that come up. And, if we raise things, they generally do take notice. This is just thoughts on how we can actually assist you as the council for 2022. Do reach out if you think that we can be of assistance. We might raise with the president each year ongoing concerns that students are bringing to us that seem to be cropping up over and over again. If you need assistance with some research into contemporary issues, if you need legal advice about a protest or anything like that, I'm very happy to help. And obviously, sometimes a student might want to approach you in your roles as office bearers and actually liaise more with you than they would with us, or they might want that done jointly. That's always fine. It's a free service. I think probably most people would be aware of that. So it's there's no charge at all. The only requirement we have is that if a student needs legal advice about something that's not related to university or to Centrelink, then we do. Hey, Tom's just arrived. There we go. We do ask that they join ARC if they need legal advice or they need court representation or anything like that. And please do contact us if you need, or refer students to us if you think that is something that they would benefit from. That's where we are. We're so in non-COVID times, Linda and I sit on the mezzanine level, which is right next door to the president's office, just as you walk into the main office of ARC. So typically we'll see students in person. We've adapted very much to the online environment, so students are now seeing us in person or via Teams or a phone call, and they've adapted pretty well to that. So we'll probably continue that into 2022. But generally students have just been able to turn up at ARC's office, and we'll book them in to see us as soon as we can. So that's us. We're obviously not an enormous team. It's just Linda and myself, but we certainly do our best. So that is me.
That's great. Thank you, David.
Thanks for listening.
Are there any questions for David? And you can see the email there, and also Joel has put the link to our help advice to the chat. But again, later we'll show you exactly, we can find all of this like information of all the different like emails.
Is there any chance that we can be given access to those slides just to hold on to, so that it's easy to go through? Thank you.
So we are going to collate all the presentations together, and we will give you access to all of us, including the recording. So yeah. Any more questions?
I was just going to note, and I think David mentioned it, that David and Linda are also super keen and willing to be involved in any like seminars or workshops that you want to run. So if there's a topical issue coming up and you're like, I actually think this would be really great to get a lawyer in to sit and talk about, like get in touch with them, and they're super keen to be involved and help with that. So
yeah, by all means. Cheers, Joel.
That's okay.
Okay, if there are no more questions, David, thank you for doing
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and a great intro, and all the very best for 2022. See you around.
David.
Have a lovely day. So, next on the list, we have the UNSW introduction session with Tom and Ionica. Has Tom joined?
I believe he joined during
yes.
David's session.
Let me confirm he's like.
Oh, can you hear me?
Okay, you're here. I can't see.
Hi.
Hi, Tom. Is there a presentation that you would like to share?
Yes.
Okay, I will make you co-host then.
Tom, not in an Audi. Times have changed.
It's a rare occurrence.
And where is the belt?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Hang on, one sec.
What's going on? End of term and everything's changing. Usually Tom has a belt hanging from the wall behind his head and he's in an Audi. There we
I'll
go.
just hold it here the whole time. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Let me just share my screen.
I have spotlight you too. So whenever you're ready, you're good to start.
Okay, cool. Can everyone see that?
Yes, you can.
Okay, amazing. So hey guys, I'm Tom. I'm the current president of the SRC. And I'm going to be running through pretty much the contexts within the university that are relevant to you and relevant to the SRC as a whole. And Naonika will be helping me. But I guess first to explain why this is kind of important is a lot of the work you do involves pushing the university to implement things, because as an SRC, obviously we don't directly control the finances or the decisions of faculties or the university. What we do is pressure them. We campaign, we protest, we lobby, and that often just involves making compelling arguments to people that they should be implementing policies, and that works sometimes it doesn't, and that's when you protest. But establishing working relationships with contacts within the university is incredibly beneficial as one of the tools you have in your arsenal to make the uni a better place. So that's why we do it. So this is the UNSW organization structure. I'm not sure if you've seen it before. I've circled kind of the people that are most relevant, and we'll be going through them. So there's the academic board. The president of the SRC sits on the academic board. And so the SRC has a direct conduit into the academic board. So that's really important, as the academic board's kind of very important. We also liaise with faculties directly if it's say a course specific issue or something like that, or a specific faculty issue. We also primarily are involved with the DVC of Academics and Student Life, which is Merlin, and people under him, and also the DVC of Equity, Diversity and Inclusion. We sometimes interact with the other people, but in terms of like the operational stuff, it's not really our thing, I suppose. Like we don't need to know that much about the university finances directly, unless we're running a campaign around it. But yeah, just to go through each in turn. So the DVCA, which is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academics and Student Life, is Merlin Crosley. He makes kind of a lot of the big decisions around university, good and bad. Classic example of bad is trimesters. That was in a big part pushed by him and Ian Jacobs. But there are also sometimes he makes good decisions. Like flexibility week was something that he was very strongly behind, and expanding special consideration. So it's important to note that these people have their own agendas, but they have a lot of power, and where they agree with you or they see scope to work with students, it's really useful to have them on board. So the Merlin meets with the SRC president, the ARC board chair, and the PGC president monthly. And so that's an opportunity to raise issues, as we've done this year with him. So under Merlin, you also have Rawdon, who's the Provost Chancellor of Education and Student Experience. That sits under the kind of portfolio of the Deputy Vice Chancellor. And like student experience is pretty much anything. Like it's intentionally vague, and that means like it's things like student support, like accommodation, crisis support, but it's also things like course delivery, like flexibility week. He does a lot of work around like my experience, and kind of student feedback and representation on a course level is something that he's really interested in. Then related there too is the academic board. So I think I really want to stress the academic board, like it has quite a few students on it. Like I think there's about 10 student reps on it, on a board of about 40, 50. And so like, I guess if there's three factions, as it were, on the academic board, you got the students, you got the faculties, and you've got the university management. And 2 out of 3 of those is enough for things to change. And the academic board's recommendations are almost invariably implemented by the university because they're taken quite seriously. And so the academic board is a really useful place to build kind of a working coalition to get things done, either with the faculties or with management. So one example is this year, we pushed through a paper with the support of some faculties and the university management that late penalties across all subjects will be 5% next year. So right now it varies from like 2 to 100% per day. That's going to be going through a trial run of 5% across everything next year. And that's because the student reps work with the other people on the academic board to make that happen. And so again, you have this direct conduit through the president who sits on the academic board. And also the academic board undergraduate student reps are ex officio members of the SRC, so you can kind of work with them. And they also sometimes do working parties where like you can get involved directly. And also they have subcommittees where the president also sits. So it's kind of a lot of scope to get things done through there. Moving on to kind of the portfolio of DVC EDI. So that's equity, diversity, and inclusion. So they kind of run a lot of the social justice related stuff at UNSW. So the sexual misconduct reporting portal, the racism reporting portals, and a lot of like the policies, like the anti-racism policy, is done through this, the DVC EDI portfolio. And they're also a really strong collaborator and supporter of events that we've run throughout the year. So Zane would know, for example, they supported the drag event recently. And they also do a lot of work around like disability accessibility and accessible campus and various other things. So they also now hold the conduct and integrity unit, which is kind of relevant because oftentimes you'll get students asking, like, I've been accused of cheating, what do I do? And so that's also, we also meet with them kind of semi-regularly to discuss ways around making that whole process less daunting for students who've been accused of misconduct. So that's a very important portfolio. And they this year met with us fortnightly. And there's scope there for kind of more people to be in the meetings than just the president, that you can have like a lot of different officers in those meetings. You can take turns depending on if there's an issue that's particularly relevant, say something relating to kind of gender equity comes up, you might have the women's officer attend. But yeah, they're really active and they're really supportive of the work that we do. So it's good to be involved there. Then kind of related is UNSW Wellbeing. So this is Neil Morris. So Neil Morris is kind of everything. It's a bit weird. He does a lot of different things, but he works under Rawdon. And UNSW well-being. That includes like accommodation. That includes like psychology and well-being. That includes sometimes activations like on campus and events on campus. And it also includes like student support. So that's like financial grants. And like Mulworry this year, which was 175 subsidized accommodation spots for students in financial hardship, was pushed a big, no small part through Neil. So he's also in the meetings with Rawdon, which Nanika will attend, but Neil is also the kind of person where if you're an office bearer and you've got something that you want to you want to address this year, like speak to Nanika and you guys can set up an ad hoc meeting with Neil. He'll be more than happy to do that. And he's really supportive of kind of all different types of events and initiatives that boost student wellbeing. So yeah. And then also kind of last but not least, faculties. So this kind of reflects a trend of decentralization that's been happening at UNSW. I guess faculties are kind of reasserting their authority over central management. Potentially there's a backlash to poor decisions like trimesters that faculties want to have a bit more control. And so it's good to establish kind of working relationships with those people as well. We this year implemented a policy of having all the student undergrad faculty reps be ex officio members of the SRC. So probably during the planning day or at some point, it'll be good for those of you who are interested in like academic policy to meet up with those people. Just in that way, like if there are issues that come to you, you know the people who can raise those in faculty boards. And also the deputy deans of education are kind of the go-to place if there's a complaint about a course that you can't resolve on the course level, like with the convener directly. So kind of unfair marking, like last minute changes to assessments that screw over a bunch of students. These are the people to go to on the faculty level. But yeah, and pretty sure that's all I had in terms of kind of the major context within the university. I'm happy to take any questions at this point.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any questions for Tom? I can't see anyone. Tom, can you also please share this presentation with me so I can collate everything in one bigger one? Great. Great.
Danica, did you have anything to add, or is that you happy with that?
No, it sounds pretty good. If anyone's confused at any point about who to go to and why they're doing things and who they are, and or even who you're going to, more than happy to go over it again, because I'm conscious that there'll be a lot of names that will be dumped on you today. So I'm absolutely happy to go over it again and again. Also, thank you for like amazing work, Tom. Just wanted to highlight that you've done a very good job managing multiple meetings. So yes, thank you for that.
Joy, you have a question?
Not a question, just going to add things to what Tom said. I just wanted to also note that the president of the SRC and also the PGC will meet with the CEO of ARC, Shelley, regularly as well. So if you have anything you need to raise on an ARC level, feel free to feed it through to the president and they will also raise it. And also sometimes you won't, the query or the problem that you have won't be one of those specific departments that Tom mentioned, but Shelley will likely have the knowledge of the person or the department to tap on the shoulder of. So it's always good to raise things with the president. Shelley's a really good resource.
Thank you, Joelle. Important information. Okay. If we don't have any more questions, just give it a bit more time for everyone to think about it. No more questions, because we do we want to move now to the SRC charter, or do you prefer to take a break and then do it all in one big bulk and have a lunch earlier? What do you prefer? Oh,
Tom, Name, do you guys want to do the charter now? Do you want to take a break?
I'm happy. Tom, what do you want to do?
I'm happy to do the charter now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Just give me a few minutes to set up.
No worries. Anyone thought of any questions at all about any of the presentations we've had so far today that they want to raise now? I can do my best to try and answer them.
No, but I did want to flex that I'm using an ARC mug.
Oh, love that. I was gutted because I waited till the end of the day to try and go get one of those, and then there were none left.
Mine had which was especially nice because I got a mug and a plant to take home.
Is the plant still alive?
No, it's been like 11 months. I'm a bit of a plant mum, but I'm not that good.
Fair enough. Also don't have an ARC mug. There'll be more likely at O Week. Don't you worry. Look out for the freebies at the stalls. In terms of someone asked where the recording will be uploaded to, and I will go through that in our admin presentation later. There's a website page that will be created that will have links to everything. There'll be the presentation, there'll be the recording, there'll be other SRC forms that are relevant to you guys, links to the charter, all that jazz. So when we get to that, we can show you where everything will be. Over to you, Tom.
Okay, I'm once again sharing my screen. Is it working? Cool. Okay. So SRC charter. So I'll first note that right now this one says insert approval date. That's because if I'm not mistaken, it's likely to be approved in the next board meeting, which is on the 18th of November. So by the time you started, this will be subject to any changes, which are unlikely, the operational charter. Cool. So pretty much the charter just outlines the responsibilities of officers and councillors. And it kind of defines your roles. It defines how our meetings run. It defines kind of the powers of the president within the meetings. And it has like also provisions for kind of dispute resolutions, kind of OH&S issues, bullying and stuff like that. So I think the easiest way to do this will just be to go through it in order and just kind of talk about it a little bit. So yeah, so first of all, it defines ARC. That's pretty straightforward. I'm sure you've heard a lot about that already. But in terms of the Student Representative Council role, so basically, like, as you know, the SRC is the peak representative body for UNSW students. And in recent years, we've become kind of potentially more specified to undergraduate students as the PGC has picked up in terms of representation of postgraduate students, but ultimately we represent all students at UNSW. So it defines a bunch of different events and responsibilities that we have. But like, again, like it's very broad, enhance the interests of UNSW students. That is whatever you guys take it to mean within reason. And so, yeah, it's just setting out the framework for that. So I guess the main thing are the general rules for councillors. So basically, as councillors, you have a responsibility to attend every SRC meeting unless you have a valid reason not to. And that means, and also to raise issues that have been raised with you as councillors and issues that students have. And that means kind of reporting on the activities that you're performing, attending the meetings, participating in campaigns, kind of all the stuff that you have talked about in your electoral statements, I assume. But yeah, I cannot stress enough, like you really want to, for every meeting, you want to like submit your report. You want to indicate your attendance, and you want to read the other reports of what other people have done so that you actually come to the meeting prepared and you know what's happening, because that means that you're going to be more effective as a councillor, and as a council will have greater kind of transparency in internal communication. So officers have all those responsibilities and then extras, which is commensurate with the fact that officers are paid. And so like you would all know that your officerships have, you represent a portfolio. And we've added this clause to make it very specific. like each officer will have a social media page. They might have social media pages on like Facebook, Instagram, and elsewhere. It's your responsibility to be kind of a moderator / editor of those pages, and to post regular content, to make sure that people, like the university student body at large, knows that your collective exists and is doing stuff. It's really important that you do that. And also it's worth noting that as officers, you have a degree of autonomy from the SRC, because you're the spokesperson for your collective. So if your collective takes a different angle than the SRC, that's kind of like, you don't need to confirm every decision and every campaign that you want to run with the entire SRC in a meeting. You should check with the president, the general secretary, to see how they can support you. But like, you're the spokesperson for your collective. So officers also, each officer will get a discretionary budget, which I'm sure Joelle and Anna will discuss later on. Again, you decide how that budget is used, but the president has to approve it, because the president, like all the financials have to go through the president and then through our finances. And pretty much the president, I'm sure Nayonika will be very reasonable. If an expense is kind of related to your portfolio and isn't like outside of budget or just like something ridiculous, then most of the time, like it will be approved without a problem. And it's also worth noting that if you're not running an event, or you're running an event in collaboration with another portfolio or another collective, you can decide whether to permit that other collective to access part of your budget, as it says there. So that's very frequent, like kind of a bit of, what's the word, quid pro quo, but not in like the illegal sense, in like the collaboration sense, between collectives. You also are responsible for organizing kind of the date, time, location, and format of your collective meetings. And that means like the ultimate responsibility for that rests on you. If you want to do it in a democratic way within your collectives, that's probably a good idea and that's your prerogative. But ultimately, it's your responsibility to choose the time. And if you choose a time that's different from what the majority of your collective wants, your view prevails. Now, I don't anticipate that'll be an issue because most collectives work quite productively, but if you're having issues, I just want to emphasize that as a matter of, like, I guess, legal principle, that's your prerogative there. Sorry. Yeah, so you convene your meetings, you report on your activities, and also, as we discussed earlier, university committees, if they're relevant to your collective, you should be there. If you have issues that you are trying to tackle, you should talk to the university people relating thereto. And also, like, there's a lot of discussions here. Work with postgrad council. Yes, do that. They're really good. Being available to members of the student community, of course. And also, there are occasions where you work cross collaboratively with like the UCED SRC or UTS or whatever it may be, if it's like a statewide event. So those are fairly frequent, especially in like the enviro and ed areas. Yeah. So there are also like specific roles and responsibilities for each OB. They go into a bit more detail. I'm not going to go through them individually. You should just read them if it's your role. But I will note, just for the presidency role, so the president does approve or deny kind of all expenditures as a matter of process, but again, it could be reasonable. And also the president is the official spokesperson for the council as a whole on social media. And that means the president kind of controls the actual main Facebook page for the SRC. And again, as a matter of practice, the president will be kind of collaborative and work with the relevant OBs for that. But ultimately, it falls upon the president to decide what goes up there, subject, of course, to like publishing a motion or something. Yeah, so that's that. I'm gonna scroll down. But yeah, read your roles if you haven't already. So council meetings, like you as a group will decide how frequently you'll have them. It says once a month or as is required. So it doesn't have to be once a month. We had 6 meetings in 2021 and 2020, and I think 10 in 2019. So it depends. And discretion of the president. We also introduced like a format as like we didn't have like a set format, so we had to vote to choose a format of speaking every meeting, which was annoying, and also led to unnecessary debate about procedure. So we've instituted like a general format, which hopefully should clear it up. And of course, you can vote to adopt a different debate format, but this is just a standard debate format that we put in there for you. Yeah, so the president chairs the meetings. If not, it's the GenSec. Yeah, so this is again what I was stressing earlier: attend all meetings unless exceptional circumstances prevent you from doing so. You really want to let people know as soon as possible if that's not going to be the case, because one thing that can happen is we lose quorum, and that means kind of everything gets screwed up. We need to reschedule, things get delayed. But yeah, you really need to be on top of communicating things like that. And also I should note, if you fail to communicate on 2 occasions that you're not attending a meeting, you will be kicked off the SRC automatically. So you need to submit an apology if you're not going to attend. Yeah, so conduct, basically, don't be a pain. Kind of engage in constructive discussion, don't interrupt, follow the speaking order. If you want to speak, you can always comment in the chat. If you want to speak, put your hand up. But yeah, like don't be disruptive in the meetings, because again, like we have a safe spaces policy, which prevents, it basically disbars people from being disruptive or rude or engaging in bullying behavior. And the president has a discretion to remove you from the meeting for the rest of the meeting if you're being like intentionally disruptive. Meeting agendas. Yeah, so this is like you want to submit your report when like Anna and Naonika and Nick will remind you of when reports are due. You want to submit it in time because it needs to go out 7 days in advance, the meeting agenda pack. That's in the ARC regulations and it's in here. So that's how the agenda gets set. And like we've often had a thing where like I'll receive a paper on like the day of the meeting or the night before the meeting saying, can you please include this? This is really important. The only time that the president will include those is if like literally it's occurred yesterday, and the only time you could have written it was like if something happens like a climate, I don't know, or like for example, AUKUS was announced like 2 days before our SRC meeting, and I accepted that motion because it was 2 days before. But if it had happened like three months ago, and then you decided the day before, oh, actually, this is actually something I want to write a motion on, it's not going to be accepted. So yeah, do things promptly, do things on time, and explain why you couldn't have done them earlier if you're handing in something late. Yeah, there are a couple of different types of papers. The main one is matter for discussion. Matter for decision. So yeah, this is the main type of motion, and there are a couple of different things you can do here. But usually you just kind of vote whether you support a motion or not, and they'll often have action points like the president will put up a post on the Facebook page, so you can, yeah, vote for that to occur. Minutes are pretty straightforward. They summarize what we do. We put them on the SRC page. If anyone, Naonika may have ideas about kind of communicating the results of meetings in more informally, but that's the job. Yeah, reports. You should read through this, but pretty much it summarizes what you need to do for your reports. It says for semester, but per term. Yeah. you want to prepare in advance what you're doing, communicate it. That just explains kind of all the different things there. And a new thing that we've also introduced is handover documentation. So this doesn't apply to you immediately. This applies to the kind of outgoing SRC, but basically we're going to have to prepare handover documents for you guys so that you know what has been going on. Yeah. Induction, we're doing the induction. I'm going to assume don't need to go through that. But this is the other thing, conduct. So this outlines some of your duties, and it also outlines you're responsible for the safe spaces policy. So yeah, pretty much it's very simple. Be polite, don't be rude. And there's a dispute resolution process for various issues, usually going through ARC. But yeah, it's worth going through that in your own time, I'd imagine. But pretty much things usually go to the SRC president for initial resolution. And if that's not working, then it will go further up into the ARC HR chain. Yeah. And also the SRC president can remove an officer who's not performing their duties. And so this is like, if you like know that you can't do the role, you should communicate that and decide on a plan going forward, because it's very frustrating and bad for the SRC and bad for the community if we do have to undergo like a formal dispute resolution process for someone who's not fulfilling their duties. It's much better to be honest about it and to consider whether you should continue in the role, because it's just not useful to anyone to have to go through the dispute resolution process, but it is there if it needs to be. Yeah, and then this charter can be changed. Usually what we do and what we did this year is at the end of the year, and also during where there were kind of problems that arose, we had an SRC meeting where someone proposed some changes. We endorse that. It goes to ARC board. They endorse it, and the changes get implemented. So yeah, that's pretty much the charter. And then the only other thing is this new handover document, which again, not relevant to you guys, but you will receive from us in due course. So yeah, hopefully that all made sense, and apologies for rambling a bit. But again, if people want to throw questions my way. Hey, Annika?
I do not have a question, but I just want to quickly flag that if you are covered by an ELS extension, you can get an extension to submit your report just by a few days, but that has to be flagged with a GenSec first. Otherwise, it becomes impossible to include your report and statement. But the motion has to go 7 days before. So if your motion's after that, and as Tom said, unless it's an absolutely exceptional circumstance, we can't include motions. And apart from that, this year, Anna has been an absolute joy and made our life easier. So you no longer have to write up a Word document to submit your reports and motions, anything. It's all going to be centralized, and it's going to be form stacks that we have. So you just jump onto a link and submit your report or your motion, whatever it is, online. So it's just one link that we'll make available, and that will centralize everything for you. But yes, for reports and everything like that, Nick will be your central point of contact.
I just wanted to flag what I said in the chat, because just in case people aren't reading it, Zane asked whether meetings in 2022 will be online or in person, and just wanted to note that it's at the discretion of that relevant officers, a relevant office bearer for that office, and or the president if it's for an SRC meeting. I imagine that if you can all meet on campus, that would be great, but I think that in terms of everyone's timetables and having adapted or moved away during COVID, that maybe online is more feasible, or maybe you can find a hybrid option, but it's at the discretion of the officer for that particular office.
Yeah, I was going to say that we'll probably try and figure this out as well as soon as we start our term in December, but that's something we'll consult with all of you before we finalize that. I'll have a chat with Nick as well about it.
Thank you, everyone. And also, Nayonika will send you some dates for the next year's SRC meetings to have a long before we decide, so we can at least lock the week of, because I know not all of you have your timetables. Okay, any more questions? Are there any questions? Okay.
Yeah. Do we have any indication from the university what the return to campus policies will look like next year about people being vaccinated, stuff like that, just so we can start thinking about whether we want to run in-person meetings, in-person events?
Nayonika, do you want to reply, or it's?
Yeah, happy to reply. So we have a complete return to campus plan that's in the works. So from the 1st of December, we can come back. So far, we don't have a mandatory vaccination policy. All of that's being worked on, but we are meeting with UNSW to discuss this. Most of it will be back on campus. You'll still have a hybrid model up to term 1 because they suspect all people won't return. So most people will be returning as well. But yes, thank you, Tom. We do have a return to campus roadmap that's being worked on. And it's quite publicly available as well. So if anyone has any confusion, UNSW is working on it. Just going to flag that ARC is following what UNSW is doing. So we don't have our own separate policy, just because the campus spaces is something that's regulated by the estate management at the moment. So we're following what they're doing at the moment.
Thank you, Nayonika. Nick, would you like to add something, or it's just a question? Can you hear?
We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, can you now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
It's like a question, but it's not necessarily related. But will we be doing a minute's silence at 11 for Remembrance Day?
We absolutely can.
Cool.
Any other question, or Joe, would you like to add something regarding the return to campus, the COVID one?
No, just to echo what Nayonika said, ARC won't be having, we can't have a sort of plan that's separate to UNSW. We have to go off the back of what they say. Previously, UNSW had announced that this time round they would be aligning themselves with the New South Wales health guidelines for everything to do with COVID and restrictions, etc. So that made everything a little bit easier. There has been an instance recently where they have not aligned with what New South Wales had said, and they've been a little bit more conservative. So we will be always deferring to what UNSW says in terms of what their return to campus plan is, and having to abide with that, because most of our permissions and events, etc., have to run, like Nayonika said, through the state management and the return to campus or safe return team at UNSW.
Thank you, Joel. Are there more questions regarding the charter? No. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, would you like to take a quick break and then continue to the other part? Because I can see hands nodding. Okay, maybe 10 is good. Yeah, 10 minutes break. Yeah. And then we can come back and we'll do, so Tom and Nayonika discover will do the concept, background, continuity, and concept vision in one block. Okay? Okay, cool.
Sounds
okay,
good. Thank you.
So see you everyone back at 10:50.
I'm going to talk about some of the across the whole SRC campaigns that we've done, and then we'll talk about some of the more specific office bearer campaigns. I am at work, so I'll go through the first part. We'll do any questions on that, and then Nayonika will take over from me once I leave. But yeah, Nayonika, could you go to the next slide, thanks? Cool. Yeah. So this is a brief rundown of some of the major things that have been ongoing, and that should definitely be taken up. I'll go through each of them individually, but I'll just say in general, one of the kind of biggest ongoing things you're doing is compliance. It's like we push for changes to occur, and then they do occur, and then they're good, and then like courses and the universities slowly start rolling them back. There's like a constant tug of war between student rights or like student expectations and like course conveners wanting flexibility. And there's a balance to be negotiated there, but where we've won things that students find beneficial, it's kind of a constant process of ensuring that those things stay in some form. So yeah, these are a couple of things we'll go through. Next slide, thanks. So one classic such example is this year we got the 175 apartments at the 1 Cowper Street apartment complex. So 175 beds at the 1 Cowper Street apartment complex, formerly known as Mulwaree Apartments, as subsidised accommodation for students. That has not been continued into 2022. It's because the university expects there to be much more uptake of college spots across the whole campus, and they have kind of lowered college prices to some degree, but there is not the same subsidized accommodation that's like very cheap for people who like really genuinely need kind of financial assistance. For example, they're leaving an unsafe household or something like that. What that does mean is because that's not happening, we as an SRC or you guys as an SRC will need to continue to work to ensure that there are places in other colleges and there is other options for crisis accommodation for people who need it. Like ARC has 2 crisis accom spots, but there were around 30 people in the Mulwaree apartments, many of whom are now being relocated and are continuing to provide support. But where things come up and students need like a midterm or like anything but a short-term solution, there needs to be options there. And so that's like an ongoing discussion that like the welfare officer and others will want to have with Neil Morris, who has flagged they may be considering having kind of hardship spots in colleges more generally. So that's a big thing. Next slide, thanks. Another thing that's ongoing is the academic board and the deputy vice chancellor of academics, S. Merlin, have set up this like assessment working group, and it's kind of like a major group with a couple student reps on it, including myself, the postgrad council president, and the ARC board chair, that looks at things like assessment, pretty much assessments in general, and they have like a bunch of big ticket questions, like should the final weighting be reduced to 50% as a standard, and that's something we did push for this year, and that went into that working group, and that's since been approved by that working group. So that's something that Nayonika will sit on, but it's something that like you should all contribute to and like discuss with Nayonika what's discussed in that group, so we can have like a comprehensive response to the questions posed by that. So like one of the questions like that's been asked there is, should all first year courses be pass fail? And like, I don't know, like maybe that's a very big question, and I don't think they're looking at that anymore. But that's something where you really like need to consult widely and have a really strong discussion on. But that'll be ongoing kind of into the foreseeable future. But yeah, I will send an attachment of their kind of terms of reference, which includes some of the big major questions that are being asked to Nayonika. The next thing is 5% a day late penalty. So this was something that we pushed for, like standardized late penalties, and I discussed it earlier, but that was passed mid-2021, and the board said, like, and it was passed with like a 63% majority at the board, which means like there's a lot of people and specific faculties like business that are very angry at us for passing that. Well, not angry, but they disagree strongly. And again, this is something where they're going to take every attempt to water it down. So Rawdon said it will apply from T1 2022. It's incumbent upon us to kind of publicly and privately push him to enforce it and faculties to implement it on an ongoing basis. And then also this will also be reviewed at the end of 2022, my understanding is. And so like, assuming it doesn't suck, which I'm assuming it won't, then you will want to like push for it to continue into 2023 and beyond. Next slide, thanks. The classic one. So Flex Week compliance is like a big issue. More and more courses are kind of saying like, screw it, we're going to run classes in week 6. And it's kind of defeats the whole purpose of having Flex Week, especially when you have some courses that are giving you time off and others that aren't. It's like the inconsistency means you don't really have a break. And so Nick, Ren, and Lulu, the current SRC councillor, ran a survey just asking, like, trying to gauge the breadth of the issue, and it's kind of a big one. And so this is an ongoing thing where we need to, or you guys need to push to make sure that courses are actually implementing it, because it is a requirement. Next slide, thanks. And also, the uni is looking at upgrading Moodle, and they have like a working group for it. And the new model looks like really good, like straight up, it looks way better than the current Moodle. And the big plan is to like standardize Moodle pages across courses. So there's a working group for that. And they've trialed it in a few courses. And like the student feedback in those courses where they've trialed it has been really good. But as this gets rolled out, like there may be bumps and issues within Moodle that need addressing. So basically keeping an eye out for that. And I believe Naonika will be in the working group. Yeah, so that's just, those are things that are ongoing that you should keep looking at as like an entire SLC. Those are kind of the main ones. I don't believe I had anything else there. I think like we did also have like a bus cuts campaign, which got put on pause because COVID. But I think a lot of issues, like what you're going to find is a lot of the issues that you end up tackling will kind of relate to what we're doing this year, but like COVID coming back off will kind of change everything and new issues will arise. So I think the most important thing is like to stay flexible. Yeah, and we'll take a minute silence, please.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions, or if not, are you happy for me to go?
Just 2 minutes silence for.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Okay. Yeah, did anyone have any questions for me in relation to any of that? Seeing none, I'll pass on to Naonika, and I might head off at this point.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Moving on.
Thank you, Tom.
Historically, we also have 9 different collectives. Please correct me if my numbers are wrong. I know the council structure has changed a bit as well. So we've now got the design campus as well with us, which might make it 10, 9. I don't do math for a reason. So whatever the numbers are, we've got some collectives with us. All of the collectives historically have some of their own campaigns, but They also define the kind of work they do. So you'll find that when you work on the council, that not everyone does the same kind of work, not everyone sees the same kind of issues, and the kind of campaigns they run are quite different as well. So what Ed Collective might do might be very different from Enviro, might be different from Women's, might be different from International. So it's important to remember that those differences exist and it's fine. But whenever you need support throughout that, Nick and I will be there to help you with it. Just to go through some of the past campaigns we've had, you can either carry these forward or you can choose to pivot what your campaigns are. I'm just going to flag that I do not have anything for the Design Campus and the Ed Collective on here. Nick, I'm going to let you speak to the Ed Collective to it because you're there, so you can speak to it. So Welfare Collective has historically done a lot of free breakfast and food hub support. It historically looks at all of those welfare issues and areas around it. But generally that also is something that the entire SRC looks at. So if you have very specific requests, the SRC can look at the collective officer can look at it, but if you need support, you can come back to us. The Women's Collective does its design, it's got the Reclaim the Night rally, it's got the dignity box as well. So that's something that you can carry forward. If you want to pivot that, you can either turn them into policies or activities you want to work on. The Ethnocultural Collective as well has designs, inter-campus catch-ups, sorry about the spelling mistake. There's a lot of participation from the Women's and Ethno and International Collective, mainly during Respect Week, and running campaigns around all of that, so especially during Diversity Fest as well. International Collective is back on concession card campaign and working on it with USAID, UTS, Macquarie already, so that's something that they're working on as it is, and they're going back to it. Accommodation support, again, you'll find that a lot of the themes overlap a fair bit, but if you have any specific questions, happy to go over them. The Environment Collective, again, as Tom addressed, looks at cross-campus campaigns, citywide campaigns, but also UNSW specific ones. So these are things that they've done in the past. Again, you're more than welcome to pivot from it or go through it. Students with Disabilities Collective as well, they do different work. So DIP action plan, safe space locations, ELS, all of that. So you'll work with different departments and faculties as well within the university. Having said that, at any point, if you're confused about who to go to, more than welcome for you to ask us and we can direct you to people. Having said that, some collectives also do have double officers. So the Queer Collective, which is an autonomous collective, has 2 queer officers. So we've got Leora and Zen. The Students with Disabilities Collective does have a special provision where you can have 2 officers if the need arises to manage the workload balance. And that's something that we can look at the other collectives as well. If at any point you find that the work is getting too much, we do have the capacity as a council to revisit what the charter looks like or what the position appointment looks like. And then we'll have a chat with both Joel and Anna about this and work through it if you find yourself needing additional support at any point. Indigenous Collective as well, we've got Rosie, who's the Indigenous officer. That's an autonomous collective as well. Having said that, when you are running events, if you want to run anything that is queer friendly, First Nations friendly, or disability friendly, it's required that you consult with all of them. You can't make those decisions without consulting with those office bearers, purely because they're autonomous for a reason. And there's a lot of sensitivity that needs to be put into it. We've got new art and design campus office bearers who previously sat on a different collective. So they have their own art and design, not collective, sorry, council. They had their own council until last year, but because engagement was quite low and involvement within main campus was something that can be an issue, the new council structure involves them as well. So make sure that when you are running campaigns and events that you do consider that you don't just hold them on the main campus, that you can also run events and campaigns on the art and design campus. So that's the Paddington campus. Yes, that is what we had in terms of continuity so far. Anna, Joel, are you happy for us to go into the next bit or?
Yeah, absolutely. We've asked Mitch if they can join early for their section, but if they can't, we'll just break in between again.
Yes, perfect. Okay, sounds good. Perfect. So before we jump into the fun parts about when all of you start your roles and your positions, I I know everyone's addressed this, but congratulations. So we've got a fantastic council. We've got a range of faculties and degrees and years experiences between us, which is really nice. So I'm genuinely excited to be working with you. This is my 4th year on the SRC. I've moved from international officer, welfare officer, Gen Sector president now. And I've generally seen the SRC do some fantastic work. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to do some meaningful work, but also like meet people along the way who care about the work you do, and they'll happily support you. Having said that, you're more than welcome to contact me at any point. And Nick will be your Gen Sec, so he will be your main point of contact, SRC related. I do understand that, you know, all of you are students and we're all managing things, life, uni, and everything, and SRC at the same time. So we absolutely appreciate that the commitment will vary based on your personal circumstances as well. But the only thing we say is keep Nick and I in the loop. So you can either keep one of us in the loop for privacy, confidentiality, or whatever you're more comfortable with. You're more than welcome to tell anyone. All of the conversations you have in an official capacity will be treated with a lot of confidentiality and respect. So we'll extend that to everyone. But go back and also make sure that within the roles that you have taken up, you've read all of those descriptions in the charter, so you understand exactly what those expectations are. And if at any point you do have questions or concerns, or you just need an additional hand, let us know. So jumping into what we want to do for the next year, we don't expect all of you to know exactly what you want. We'll organize a planning day for this in the future that Nick will set up. And how that will work is we'll give you access to a Notion page as well. We'll go over what Notion is as well. It's just going to be centralized, so that way we can keep track of what the campaigns are. We'll have links everywhere. So we'll have links on the Facebook group that we have. We'll have links on Notion as well, so you can access all of the forms, the documents, the contacts that we need as well. And that's just to make sure that all of you have all the information available. Just a few things to go over would be things that we have on the slide. So that would be communication expectations, frequency of responses, the campaigns you're running, crisis and escalation, council meetings, and building an SRC engagement. So Nick, feel free to jump in at any point, by the way. In terms of communication expectations and frequency of responses, this is not something that we have a hard and fast rule about. Obviously, there are some matters that come from, say, the board, or they're up for discussion and you need a quick response. So you'll find that we put it up and we just ask people who can give us a response ASAP, or we ask office bearers and councillors to circulate it through their networks. That's just the nature of some of the work we do. Otherwise, there's a general standard 48-hour expectation that if you do get an important email or anything that requires you to respond, it would be good to flag that you've addressed it or that you can get back to it. This is just a bit more important for the office bearers because the nature of emails you will get will vary, but it will range anywhere from I need help regarding a certain issue, and that has a time limitation to I need to know where I'm going. And it's just a good rule of thumb to make sure that you are, going through your emails as well, because there's a lot of things, campaigns and what faculties are doing will keep happening throughout the year. So if you don't respond to your emails, basically what happens is Nick and I get contacted. So apart from doing the work that we're already doing, we then also have to manage what the collective needs to be doing and manage all your work, which as much as I love doing all of the work, the SRC is a fantastic body in my opinion. I'm one person, Nick is one person, we have 24 hours in our day. We don't get your 24 hours either. So we have to go to uni as well. I'm going to be in my 6th year, so it's going to be a lot of work for all of us. So appreciate the fact that we don't have the same amount of time as we would like to have to address all of those concerns. And if you're running a campaign, we might not be across all of the details. So it makes no sense in ruining your hard work. Nick, did you want to add anything?
Yeah. Like I'd just say, if you're not doing the work, like Nayonika and I will like drop you like you're hot. Like, we're not gonna let you kind of drag along the doing nothing. And I think as well, potentially in past years, the council's kind of been a bit more forgiving. Like, don't get me wrong, like I'm a nice guy, I think, hopefully, but yeah, it's just easier for Naonica and I say, because we have stuff to do, to kind of let things take its course and then get someone else in, because it is like, there are mechanisms if you're not going to do the work for you to get, you know, replaced by someone. And it's, you know, sure, it's a bit like, you know, oh, he's just trying to be a hard ass, but it's just easier for me to like, to, you know, not prod and prod. I'd rather you do the work that you're elected for. And it also looks bad on you / your ticket, don't forget. And we're going to be doing, I think, a lot more transparency about if people are meeting expectations. And if they're not meeting expectations, then it, you know, you might be like, oh, I'm elected, it doesn't matter. But, you know, tell that to whoever ran your ticket. Not that it's about tickets anymore, but, you know, there are interests that you have in terms of legacy, and also, you know, you have to maintain the stature of the SRC. So yeah, just don't mess about and you'll be gravy. But also, you know, obviously, as Naonica mentioned before, if you have any ELS stuff that you need to, you know, talk about, like in terms of submitting stuff late, reach out, like that's completely understandable. But yeah, do the work, you'll be fine. I'm also a supportive person when I need to be. But, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Having said that, just by mechanisms of what Nick was referring to, if you miss deadlines, or if you do not hold meetings, or if we can't get in touch with you, as an office bearer, the president has the capacity to suspend your honoraria, and we will do take all the efforts and steps that we can to make sure we get in touch with you, whether that's phone calls, messages, emails, social media. If it comes down to it, I will send you an Instagram message if I have to, just to make sure you're okay first. But you do need to remember that this is a very public facing role. So at the end of the day, we appreciate that you might not have capacity, but if you don't have capacity, there are students who generally rely on you to respond to emails and let people know what's happening, and that affects the work. So that's just what we wanted to flag, which is be aware of the fact that people rely on you. Apart from that, the campaigns that you run, they're up to you. Just make sure that they're reasonable, that they're not exclusive. So we have a safe space policy as well. There's no discrimination. We have a zero tolerance policy as well at UNSW. So make sure that you don't have anything outrageous in your campaigns that would discriminate or you know, keep people out of them. And that's something that we would like to discuss. Having said that, I know we'll do a proper exclusive budget session later on. Just want to flag that with the budgets or anything like that, please get them approved beforehand. If you do things like, I have decided to change the world, run a campaign, and then come back to me with a $2,000 bill, I will not approve it. I am a reasonable person, but I am not going to approve willy-nilly things that don't have a public-facing perspective. So all of the work that you need to do, it has to have a student impact. It can't serve any individual purpose, going back to what Laura said as well. Everything has to have a student impact. And if it does not, you know, we'll have to reconsider how you're doing it. I'm more than happy for you to then have a chat with myself, Nick, and include Anna and Joel as well, if you're concerned about those things. So yes. Just going back to the next one, you've got crisis response and escalation. Office bearers or counselors, sometimes you might receive a lot of stressful emails, messages, or concerns that you might hear. If at any point you do hear that, you're more than welcome to escalate it with the welfare officer, Reed, or Nick and I, and we'll tell you who to direct it to and where to go as well. And going back to that, if you do have any media requests for any of that sort of content, please always flag it with Nick and I. We appreciate that all of you are reasonable, intelligent, knowledgeable people. And I absolutely understand everyone has good camera angles. All of you look great on camera, I'm sure of it. But just make sure that you flag it with us so we are on the same page about what the SRC is doing, because we don't want the council and an individual office bearer to have different positions if that does come to question. Apart from that, we will then circulate a quick poll, which Nick will do to figure out SRC times. And we'll also figure out how we do it, whether in person or online. We'll do that later on. But we are also going to make the council a lot more transparent. So we want to be disclosing minute outcomes. This also includes disclosing who was present in council meetings, who was absent, who submitted reports, who did not. This is not to name and shame people. We do have a public facing council. And this keeps coming up every year about, we want people to know what the SRC is doing. This is what we're going to do then. We're going to make sure people know what the SRC is doing. So if you don't submit a report and things like that, we will state those things publicly. It's not a name and shame. It's just something that you need to be aware about. Apart from that, in terms of engagement, we will have things like stalling and online campaigning and events, and we'll be working across all of that. So Nick and I will organize that in the future and let all of you know as well. So that is it right now, I believe, because my slides aren't going forward. Okay. Yep, that is it that we have. Perfect. Nick, did you want to add anything? Did anyone have any questions?
It was all good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know that is it for now.
Thank you, Nayonika. Are there any more questions specific for this session? Any? Okay, the session is supposed to start at 12, so we're quite ahead of time, which is good. However, Mitch probably they are engaged in another task, and Mitch is going to they're going to run the session a bit more interactive. So I would recommend, I don't know if you want to just take your lunch break now and come back at 12. I don't know how if it's too early for lunch, or you have any other suggestion.
I mean, we don't really have anything. I think if we have most of the office bearers, we could probably just take 5 minutes to make sure they've read their charter parts. Like, I'm conscious that people read things, but like as a student, we also skim read things. If anyone has any questions, Nick and I can probably answer those now if anyone wants to read it. Not that you can't ask us later on, but if you're like 6 months into your job and all of a sudden you ask me questions, I will be very concerned.
Okay, so did you say they read the charter? Sorry, I missed that part.
Their roles and responsibilities.
Okay, I can add the link to the charter.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do that. Just give me a second to My computer doesn't like me today.
Do you want me to paste it in there?
Pardon?
Do you want me to put the link in?
Give me 1 sec. Yeah, it's sending now.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe we can give everyone 10 minutes to read the charter and then come back for all questions.
And then we have council vision starting at 11:45. Is that right, Anna?
It was at 12. I have messaged Mitch again, so if we were able to start earlier, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, so
I suspect we'll get a lot more questions after handover and things like that, but
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, for now, I think we're just easy breezy. In terms of council vision and expectations, we just quickly went over it as well. We don't have more to add to it at the moment, purely because
Mitch has a bit of a spiel.
Yep.
Oh, okay, they have a spiel. That makes sense. I was just like, we don't have a spiel. Our spiel is over. We'll probably do a handover and we'll organize a separate planning day. And I'll keep both of you posted as well, so you know when it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can everyone access the PDF? Like, can you give me some thumbs up so I know that you don't have issues? can see one.
Anna, Mitch won't be able to, I've just checked their calendar. They've got the same exec meeting that I have at 11:30 through to 12.
Okay.
So we'll have to do their session at 12.
Okay.
A suggestion could be that you could start the budget and admin.
Yeah.
We could do that earlier, and then I can just, because my exec meeting will only go for 15 minutes, and then I can drop in and do my section.
Yes.
If you'd
We
like
can
to
do that. Yeah. I think it sounds a great idea. Okay, so I could give them 5 more minutes to read the charter. If you have any questions, just drop them, and then I will start the session earlier. I can see thumbs up. That's good. Okay.
Then that means that after we come back from lunch, we've just got the handover session and everyone can go after that.
Yeah.
Nice and short day. Brilliant. I love the affection for the word spiel. Thanks, Aya and Leora.
I think today's words are, yeah, rave and spiel. Like
rave and spiel.
What did you get from the SRC inductions? Rave and spiel.
Hi, I just have a question.
Yes.
With the handover, if we're not really handing over to anyone else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or doing like a half handover.
Yeah.
You can leave, Rosie. Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Okay, so is that happening after lunch?
Yeah, so once we break for lunch, you don't have to come back.
Okay, thank you. I thought I'd just check that.
That's a really good point.
Do we want to start recording? Because I am deeply concerned about the content.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the admin and budget, which is, for me, it's really fun. It's really useful though, and I'm sure like after you start your role, you have a lot of questions regarding this. As I mentioned at the beginning, my name is Anna. I'm the admin officer of board and committee, so I look everything that it has to do with the admin part of the councils and the board. So the objectives of this session is for you to understand your role requirements. So we'll go through the paperwork and the online training. You have to complete it. We're going to talk about your ARC accounts, and we'll touch about budget and accruals and what is accruals. We will introduce you the SRC Insider, which is something we're doing for the first time for SRC. And we hope we'll streamline a lot of like the processes. It will be easier for you to find any forms or request things. And then we'll talk about the SRC spaces. So accepting your role, that's the main requirement for you to officially start your role. So we will send you your all your relevant paperwork, which is actually a link to your letter of appointment, which is digital now. And you will expect to receive this the week commencing 22nd of November, so just before your term starts. And you need to complete this by 31st of January 2022. So your letter of appointment includes what's your role, what's your start date and your end date, and the allowance you receive if you are an office bearer. This doesn't apply for councillors. And there is a list of policies that you need to read and acknowledge in the same document. That's the allowance policy, which is, again, this is related for the office bearers, not for the councillors. SRC charter, social and digital media policy, grievance resolution policy, and the safe space policy. There is another link for you to complete your employment form. So it's employment form for the office bearers and a volunteer form for the councillor. So it will be a different link, and this is, you complete this online. So you go online, you do that, and you just submit. And then our HR department receives this form. And for those who is going to receive the allowance, you need to complete your tax declaration form. However, this is a PDF document, so you can either do this online and you send it back to your CO admin email, or you print it, you sign it, you complete it, and then you scan it and you email it back. For those who've been with us this year, you don't have to do this again because you are already on our payroll system. But all the new office bearers that they're starting this year, then you have to do this. And also another requirement, it's the online training. Again, if you were if you joined SRC this year, 2021, and you completed your training, you don't have to complete it again. And I will mention this when I send you the official email with the letter of appointment and everything. However, those who've been to the council for a few years, if the last time you completed your training was 2 years ago, then you might need to do it again, because every 2 years we need to do it again. This is for all ARC staff. Then on the on online training, so this is through a different platform called Skineo. So when I send you the formal email, you will have the link to that portal and with your credentials. And there are 4 training modules that you have to complete. Worker health and safety fundamentals, bullying and harassment for employees, fraud and corruption awareness, prevention, and social digital media in the workplace. If you receive an allowance, you won't receive your allowance if you don't complete all of this. So as soon as you send me your letter of appointment signed and do your online training, then this means that you will start receiving your allowance. For the counselors, in order to receive a HEGS recognition, you have to complete these requirements, like the letter of appointment plus the online training. So let me see if so if you submit all these requirements by 31st of January, then it means that you will receive back payment. If you submit that or complete your online training after the day, you will start receiving your allowance from the day we will receive all the requirements. We used to have this date actually quite late. It was like in March usually, but we realized that people can get like a bit forgetful and forget to submit that. So my advice is just do it the first week. You will receive my email, or second week before you start, because after that you just kind of forget about it. And also if you receive an allowance, you start receiving your allowance from 1st of December. Also, all of you will have an ARC account, which is an email and also access to OneDrive and the SRC Teams. Your credentials will be sent to you on 30th of November, and you will start having access for 1st of December. So for all of you, for this year, we try to create one account that will continue. This means we already have done this for the the office bearers, but we'll do this for the counselors too. So this means that if you have any communication that needs to be tracked when the new officer will join next year, they can have access to the same account. The only thing we do is we delete the password. And that's the reason that the office bearers will receive the credentials on 30th of November and access 1st of December. It's because all this year's counselors, except Rosie, will receive new password. We're not going to leave your password, Rosie. And Zane, also for you, because you continue to this role, you can share your password with Leora. But for all the others, even if they are part of the SRC this year and they have different roles, they will receive new passwords. Also, the SRC and General Secretary have access to SRC Teams channels, not PGC, it's a mistake. And what we always say is try to create this forwarding rule to your personal emails, because I get that it's really confusing to open different accounts to check your emails. But if you set up this forward rule, you will receive your email, any email you receive for, like, let's say, the education officer, straight to your personal account, and you will be able to track what kind of emails you receive. Also, any emails from ARC from 1st of December will be sent to your ARC account. So we won't use anymore your personal account to send you any information or reminders to submit your reports or motions. If you have IT issues, we contact IT help desk, and also we put that email on the website. It will be easier for you to access. But again, you can always contact me and I will forward your email to IT. So I will touch a little bit about the budget from the admin part, not like about how much you like has been distributed monthly, like when you receive like the paper with all the month. And there is a way to get approval. So there are some budget approval steps. So the first one, and also before I move forward, I'm going to show you where you can find all these forms and how do they look like. So you will know exactly where to find them before you submit them. So there is something first we call expenditure approvals form. So after you do your planning and you decide how much money you will spend for an event, you need to request approval by the president. So you complete this form where you explain exactly how much money you are going to spend for that event, when this event will take place, and if there is any quote for the event, or if it's something that you will buy, maybe a quote like from the website. Let's say you buy something for Office Works, you put the link there. So when the SRC president receives that email, they can actually go through this and see exactly what the expense will be. And after that, the SRC president reply back that, I approve the expense, or they might not agree with, like, maybe it's too much, or maybe they want to add more. And I get this email that, the president approved it. Let's say you get the approval and then you buy like something from Office Works and you want to reimburse this, or you want to book someone for a course, as you say, and that person needs to submit like an invoice. So when you get your receipts or you receive an invoice, you submit a payment form. So that payment form could be either like personal expenses or reimbursement for your personal expenses, or it could be payment for an invoice for a service. So it's really pretty straightforward. You follow the form, you submit the attachment, and that's really important. Welcome back, Joel. On time, actually. That's really important. So remember to ask for invoices and keep all the receipts. So if you can get an electronic receipt, that's great, because it's easier for you to access and submit it. But it's really hard to reimburse you like money if you haven't kept the receipts, actually. As soon as I receive that payment form, then I'm going to do all like the back work, like submit this with finance, and then you will receive the expenses. Payments occur every Friday. This means that if you have requested like a reimbursement, you will receive the money on Friday or on Monday, depending on your bank account or your bank. However, the best day to submit the reimbursement is Monday morning. Weekend, even better, but Monday morning is the best. Because sometimes you're not part of our system. We need to get approval to add you on the system. So there is a bigger admin process. So if you submit your receipt on Thursday, you might not receive your money on Friday. But if you do it on Monday, I will make sure you receive them like your money on Friday. And then if there is any urgent payment or you have to pay a big amount of money, contact us and we will make the payment on your behalf. Let's say you want to buy a lot of things from Woolworths for an event you run and you will need to spend like more than $300. That's just an example. You can contact us. Big, yeah, like something that you don't want to pay out of your pocket, like if it's like 300, 400, 500, like on groceries because you run a big event and you want to invite everyone, then we can, like, as soon as like the president approves that expense, we can make the expense on your behalf and send you that order to the place. So Joelle, you want to add something?
And I was just going to say, basically, if you can't pay for it yourself, just tell us. It doesn't.
Yes.
We have no definition of like if $50 could be big or small to anyone.
Yes,
so
exactly. That's true.
you need to pay for anything, as long as you don't. If you don't need it, sort of, you're not in the store trying to buy it, needing
Exactly.
it for an hour's time, then just let us know, get the approvals, etc., and then we can organise it on the work Amex.
So, and then I'm going to handle to Joelle about SRC budget. Yeah, I told you you're on time.
Brilliant. Okay. Apologies if I cover anything that Anna's already said. I think she may have mentioned the way that the SRC budget works is that it's spread out somewhat evenly across every month, because we don't know when you are going to spend money across your different collectives. But we can't share that budget with you right now because it's getting approved by board on Thursday next week. So as soon as that's approved, Anna will update the website so that you can see the budget laid out. In terms of accruals, so this is sort of a tedious thing to note, but ARC reconciles its accounts every month, which is why we allocate your funding based on a month-by-month basis. But we understand that, for example, if you've got money allocated in January, but you're not necessarily needing the money in January, but you know that you've got an event in March, say it's the Women's Office and you want to do something for International Women's Day and that expense is going to fall in March, you want to take the money from your January and February into March and you know what it's for. It could be for a speaker that you've got coming in, or a workshop or panel, or an event that you're running and you're catering. As long as you submit the approval form, there's an option there that says accrue. Just tick that and explain what the accrual is for. Basically, the accrual means you're taking money from your current month and moving it forward into a future month to spend it then, but we just need to know what it's for. We aren't able to, on an accounting level, accrue it if we don't have a reasonable expense that it's actually tied to. So if you've got an invoice for something, someone said to you, this is what the quote is for us to do that thing in March, April, May, send that through to us and then we can reasonably tie the accrual to it. If you haven't accrued, say it gets to June and there's something that's going on and you were putting on an event and your particular office hasn't spent its previous month's amount of budget, but you haven't accrued the money across, it's not the end of the world. We just need to be able to justify why you're then technically overspending in that month, even though you haven't spent from months before. So the rule of thumb is that we just always need an explanation, because I then have to write up to board why we've overspent in a particular month, even if it's not actually an overspend. It's just that we reconcile every month and we close out that month and move forward. I know that's a little bit confusing, but you'll get the gist of it as you go forward. But if you know, this is why the planning stage is so important, and we understand that you can't plan for everything and sometimes ad hoc things come up and you just want to do an event or collaborate, and that's amazing. But if you have planned ahead in advance and you know that you've got a big expense coming a little bit later, try and get some quotes or some guesstimates of what that cost is going to be, and that helps us be able to justify moving the money across each month. I think that covers the first 5 points when you can accrue, how you can accrue. Anna, have you already shown the forms or is that coming up? Coming up, yeah. Okay, cool. So Anna will show you the expenditure form, which will have that option for accruals. If you have anything, like I said, out of the blue where you don't technically have enough money in your month to pay for it, but you know you haven't spent in previous months, you just get in touch with the SRC president. She will approve it or deny it, but most likely approve if it's warranted, and then get in touch with us. The other thing to note, and we will circulate this to the president and GenSec in the coming weeks, if you are planning an event where you're collecting income, so Zane, this goes to your point in the chat, if you're putting on an event where you're collecting income or collecting revenue or selling tickets, for example, we will give you a login for a specific SRC Eventbrite account. ARC uses Eventbrite for all of its events. We had a question with the PGC around using Humanitix instead of Eventbrite. Unfortunately, we're contracted to Eventbrite for another couple of years, but we are looking at how we can potentially change that for some events. But for now, it's Eventbrite. That way, any of the income will hit ARC's bank account, and then from there, we can divvy out, pay out, do whatever needs to be done with that income, or that income can go back into the SRC, and the president can then approve for that money to be spent on a particular event or donated elsewhere or paid to performers or whatever the case may be. So we'll share that login details with the president and GenSec, and then if you do have any events with money attached to it, use that account, let us know the money's coming in, and then we can work with finance. And that way we've got a paper trail in terms of when we get audited on where the money's gone and what it was from. Does that make sense? Are there any questions about budget related and or accruals at this stage?
No, I just wanted to quickly flag that I know Joelle and Anna work very hard with like accounts, but if you magically expect them to like 6 months know that you wanted to do an event, they cannot know that. Neither can I, neither can Nick. Like we can try and find you money, but if you like magically expect us to like grow money on trees and shake it, I cannot do that. Neither can Nick. And if it's unnecessary, then we'll cancel events, whatever it is, because we can't magically make things happen. So you have to communicate throughout.
Yeah, and that's why that approval form is so important, because don't commit to an expense or pay for anything until Nayonica has approved it, because you don't want to be out of pocket if you've gone, oh, I have $500, that's fine, but then actually you gave your $500 from the previous months to collaborate on a different event and you don't actually have any money left in your line, but you want to wear or you forgot. Like the approval is always, don't commit to any expenses or don't outlay any funds until you've got the approval, just to be on the safe side. Leora?
So I know in the past when the Queer Collective has had leftover budget at the end of a month that occasionally it's gone to various charities. So do you recommend like not accruing it, but just leaving? So if we haven't filled the budget for the month, leaving it so that if we want to host a larger event in the coming months to do that? Or is it a good idea to like spend the money while we have it?
No, I think that the best thing would be to leave it. And if you know that there's an event coming, like if you know that's definitely for Pride Week or whatever, and you've got a quote that's like, oh, it's for us to run this particular activation, like get that quote and then we can use that to justify the actual accrual. But if you don't have an actual expense to tie it to, you just know there's an event coming, let us know so that when it comes up in June, July, August, we're not caught out as blindsided, because I can then preemptively make notes when I'm justifying budget or reconciling budget saying there will be an overspend in a few months, but we can't technically accrue it, and then there's warning involved. So if you know there's an event, leave it, because you don't want to donate all your money to charity and then in September you wanted to run an event, you've got nothing left.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have more questions or can I continue? Next one.
I think that's an old hand from Leora. Yep, cool. Oh, this is also me. Brilliant. Yeah. So for your free non-ticketed events, you can create them on your Facebook pages as you have in the past. If you would like to create Eventbrite in terms of you need to ask questions to your registrants, or you need to know accessibility things, or you need to grab demographics from people when they're registering for tickets, you can do that through Eventbrite and you can still make them free. There's no fee involved in creating events on Eventbrite if there's no fee tied to the ticket. But as I said, make sure that if there's a money component involved, you let us know and we'll set it up on, or we'll give you the access to set it up on the SRC account. There will also be, I'm in the process of building a form or a sort of, it'll be a form stack to get you to sanity check any events that you're running. So if you're running an event that's on campus, that involves food, that may involve traveling off campus, well, there's a few different kind of components that are involved, especially in the context of COVID, when there's food involved, there's extra safety and extra risk assessments that need to be done. There's going to be a form for you to fill out where you kind of click through it and identify the different yes or no for the event that you're planning, and then it'll shoot out whether you need to do a risk assessment form, whether you need to apply for a coverage under our public liability insurance if it's something that's deemed a bit risky, and the relevant terms and conditions or waivers that might be required for that event. So if you're taking people on a bushwalk in the Blue Mountains, that's off campus, it's an SRC event, there's risk involved, so there will probably be 2 or 3 things you need to do in terms of that event happening. That was a bad example, but you know what I mean. So that form will exist on the site that Anna will show you soon, but that will just help you to sanity check whether you need to do anything extra with events that you're planning. There will be a blanket rule that if it's like you're setting up a info stall on campus to talk to people about climate change, probably not going to need anything. It'll be a blanket approval that says that's fine. But if you're handing out food or you're planning drinks off campus or anything like that, then that's where the extra sort of triggers will come in. But that will be built very soon. Any questions on events?
I just want to add something. There is an external booking form when they want to book places on campus. Yep. It's or like if you want to book let's say rooms, you want to have your meeting and you want like some Colombo Theatre or some rooms like in other like places, there is a form that you can submit, which we will add it like on the website, so you will be able to do that.
What we basically ask is that you tell us what the event plan is, and we'll let you know on the budget side of things. So if your event is solely around alcohol, then the answer is probably going to be a no. But if it's that you're booking a space at the Roundhouse for you guys to have a table tennis competition and, you know, have a speaker that comes in, and then you also want to put some money behind the bar for that event, that would be probably more likely to be approved than it would be just we're going to buy a few cartons of beer and go sit at Coogee Beach. Then we'd probably review it. No raves.
Great. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, let me, I will unshare and share again, just because I realized I shared my presentation and not, can you see my screen or the presentation?
Presentation. Nick's got a question, so you can keep going.
Okay, yes.
As well as Nick talks to me.
Weird unrelated point.
Sure.
It's, I believe it's Aya, not Aya. Just, I know everyone's.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's totally fine. That was completely unnecessary. But
no, I know what it's like. My name is one of those
early.
ones that, you know, I get Jolie all the time, so it's fine. Also, I should have introduced myself. I will do that now. Retrospectively, I didn't do my introduction during the executive team intro because I figured I would have a chance to do it now, and then of course I forgot. So my name's Joelle, so that's the correct way to pronounce it, or you can call me Joe, that's fine. A few people at ARC call me Jojo, but I find that a little bit weird. It reminds me of the rabbit. My title is Executive Officer at ARC, which doesn't really mean a lot when you read it, but in essence, I have 3 different hats that I wear at ARC. I'm the CEO's executive assistant, so Shelley, who you met earlier. I am the project officer for the organisation, which basically means if Shelley wants something run or organised, she'll throw it to me and I'll coordinate it. And then the most important in terms of my relationship with all of you is that I'm the company secretary for the org, and it means that I look after the board subcommittees, the SRC, PGC, IRC, and make sure that we're always compliant. I help with all the governance. Anna and I run through all the policies and make sure that everything's always up to date. We make sure that ARC's never going to go to jail for anything. We cover all the insurance, everything to do with the administration and legalities and governance to do with ARC and the board and subcommittees and student bodies falls under Anna and I. So if you have any questions, if you're trying to interpret the ARC regulations, which is basically Anna and I's Bible, then come to us and we will help you out. If you need help with any of the policies and procedures or the charters, get in touch. If you've got a question about anything to do with upcoming meetings or papers or how to write something or how to reach out to so-and-so, or you need time. Oh, my phone thought I said hi Google, sorry. If you need time with Shelley, let me know because I see her calendar. But that's generally what I do. Anna and I, if you obviously go to Nick and Naonika for your initial questions with anything to do with the SRC, but if they have any questions or can't answer, either you can come straight to us or they can come straight to us. But we're basically here to help you and make sure that everything runs smoothly and within the rules and regulations of ARC. Any questions on my job? No? Awesome.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you the this website page we created, which you will have only access. So when I send you the email with the link, I recommend you to just bookmark it so you can access it all the time. And screen 2. So you see screen 2, yeah? Okay. Why today doesn't? Okay, can you see? Yeah. Okay. Good. So yeah. Okay. That's the website. We'll have all the forms and requests here. So as we touch base about the finance, we are going to add here the SRC budget for 2022. Which after you're doing your plan, you want an approval, then you click on the expenditure form, which is this one. It's expenditure and accruals approval form. So in case, if you request an accrual, you put yes here in order to what Joelle said about the accruals. If you don't want an accrual, it's just a no one. Then you add your name, email, what's your office bearer, what's your title, what's the expenditure line, which you will find it on the budget. So when we update that box here with the budget, you will be able, if you're not sure, you can go to that line and find it, or you can just write environment discretionary, for instance. And then what's the event about? You can add any related quote or as I said, little links like to something that you would like to buy. And then you hit submit. So when you submit this form, both myself and Nayonika receive that form. And like Nayonika just needs to say approved or not approved. We've never had any not approved before, but that's the way we're doing. So after you make the payment or buy something or you have the invoice, then we have the payment form, as I mentioned, which is, this is what it's about. And you can, it could be like personal expenses, as I said, or invoice. So if it's personal expenses, we need also your bank details. So when you click this, bank details appear. So you add your bank details here, and then again, expense description. Also, we ask you if the SRC president has approved it, because it's a requirement. If they haven't approved it, then you need to submit again the expedited form. And the reason we do this is just to keep in track if we need to accrue something, or if we know that the president has approved the budget, so we can make the payment. Also, a really important form for SRC is the printing form. You can request printing, and you can do it by using this form. So these are the prices we charge, and this is going to charge like to the account, like the expenditure line you mentioned you want. And as a piece of advice, please give us, like, I would say at least 48 hours before you ask for the printing, especially during, let's say, a week or the beginning of the year, because reception is doing this for us, or marketing reception is busy, but usually these departments are really busy at the beginning of the year. So if you request printing, you submit the printing request and you want like in the afternoon and you want it the next morning, like 100%, it won't happen. Give us enough notice as you can. Also, you can use the printer, which is located at the SRC spaces, where is the welfare spaces and the women's spaces there. There is also, what's the name? Not allowance. There is a limit on your printing there, so each office bearer has like a specific amount of printing that they can do monthly. And I will send you all this information exactly, so you don't have to worry. I want to send you the formal email. So yeah, my advice here, it's like give us at least 48 hours before you request the printing. Then HR, so when there is a vacant position, we will advertise it like on the SRC website, so you can find it there if you want to have a look. For instance, there is someone resigns and you want to nominate for their role, so you can see what role is like there. And then we have resignation form, which is, of course, we don't want this to happen, but things changes during the year, priorities change, and you might realize that you don't want to continue to this role. This is an official resignation form. So when you decide to resign, especially when allowance is involved, so we want you to know exactly what's the resignation effective date, which this means like if you receive an allowance, that will be the last day of your allowance. And also, if you're comfortable, you can ask, like, you can submit the reasons of resigning. Again, we don't want this to happen, but things change. So this year we started to request your reports like in an online format, and actually this year we had both the reports and the motions on the same like form, but for next year we want like to make them like separate, because we think it will be easier also for us to track, but also for you to know what you submit. So the office bearers report, again, really straightforward. You have your name, your title, the date of the meeting, and you report on what we have done the previous month or months, depending on when the meeting is. If you want to submit like a motion, then there is a different form which is next to it, and then you select the type of the motion. So it could be a matter for decision, so something that you want the SRC to decide, but you might want something the SRC to discuss, so it's a matter for discussion. And then we have the matter for noting for something the SRC to note. So for the matters for noting and discussion, they don't require voting, but matters for decision, yes, they do require voting. So if you want something the SRC to pass, then you submit the matter for decision. The meeting day, what's the resolution? Some keynotes, like it's a brief summary of the recommendations, of the key points on the recommendation. And then if you want, you can add some background about like all the necessary information that for the rest of the members to understand why you're submitting this motion. If there is any financial impact, for instance, if you want to do, it's like to support a rally, maybe there is like financial impact on printing posters and you want to add it. If there isn't, like you can put NA. Then who prepared the motion and then your position here. Then we have added also the constitution, our constitutional regulations and the SRC charter, so it will be easier for you to access. SRC charter, I have sent you the draft, but I will update this one when the board approves the draft one. Here we will create the SRC handbook, which actually we will put the recording of the inductions there. And also we will create a big presentation of all like the presentations like you actually seen today. And then some useful contacts here, so we can actually go there. I touched base before about this external booking form, and I will add it there too. So apologies, I haven't added it yet. I will do it, which is all for all the external bookings. So pretty much that's the website. We think like it will help you to find the information you're looking for and also like find all the unnecessary forms. And of course, it's the first time we're doing this, so any feedback is more than welcome. If you think something is missing or during like your term, let's say Nayonika or Nick as the President General Secretary, you think like this kind of like box will help the office bearers, we're more than welcome to add it and make your life easier. Any questions on the websites? Jared, do you want to add something?
I was just going to add that we'll also add the link to when it's built and approved, the form for event risk insurance, etc.
Yeah. So all the forms and requests will be there on that website. So if something new is coming, we're going to add it there. Of course, we will let you know just to make you aware of that change. And SRC spaces, Joel, would you like?
Yes. So as you know, there are multiple SRC spaces. All UNSW, wow, students are able to access these spaces aside from the queer space, which you have to request access from the officers for that collective. In terms of 2022, the spaces should be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You should be able to just slap in. If you have any issues, let us know. If for this year, though, for the rest of this year, because UNSW is not allowing any student-led activities on campus and ARC technically runs those spaces, we as ARC have to be the gatekeepers for the spaces for the rest of the year. So if you need to access any of them, you'll need to, aside from the career space, you'll need to come to ARC reception, show your vax status, and then one of the receptionists will walk you up to the space to access it. And then security will clear you out. Reception will come and clear you out this year, and then next year it'll be security clearing everyone out of those spaces around 8 o'clock, I believe. We will confirm, Zane and Leora, in regards to the access in this queer space, because I'm not sure what UNSW's stance right now is on it, but we'll come back to you when we hear more. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, one other thing. If you do require any printing this year, please submit that printing request form. We'll need extra time, so not the 48 hours that Anna mentioned before, but
72, 3 days.
3 days. And also let us know so we can warn the receptionists to expect you and to make sure the printing's ready. Just because
also ARC reception closes 17th of December, and we will be closed. So any requests during that time, unfortunately, won't be able to process them. Okay, any more questions? Any questions on that session? Everything we said, I will also email this to you with the exact links. So you're more than welcome to just play around. If you have any more questions, just email us back. Okay. Then if we don't have any questions, Mitch, I'm going to spotlight you.
Thanks, Anna. Hey guys, so where do I start on this session? Okay, a really good place to start is just a little bit of background, which is that typically in the past, the SRC inductions has been very informational and very factual and trying to load you up with all of the knowledge of the different kind of activities that ARC does and the resources that you can tap into and all of that kind of stuff. The feedback that we got from students this year was that they would like more assistance with planning and I guess strategy. So we thought that we would embed some of that into today's session for you guys so that you can really hit the ground running, get a head start on any planning that you might like to do for next year, and also start asking those questions about where do you find stuff? Where do you get more information? Where do you get started? What resources are available, which you'll be able to also take to your handover meetings, which you have with your kind of outgoing officers later on today as well, so that you can really get a head start in your position and really be super impactful in 2022. I guess the reason that I want to run this session is because I have a really keen interest in strategy. I think that like the word strategy gets bandied around a lot at the moment because there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. And I think that strategy, as kind of corporate and cringy as it sounds, it actually offers people a bit of assurance and it makes people feel like, oh, there is a plan and there's something going on here. So you don't have to call things a strategy. You don't have to like have it written in a strategic plan and printed in a PDF. You know, these things have lots of different names, projects, plans, I don't know, ambitions, whatever you want it to be. But I guess the key thing from my perspective is how do you turn your ideas into action? Because there is kind of a gulf between great ideas and great strategy and excellent, impactful execution. So today I want to set you guys up for success with your execution side of your plan as much as possible. And that's what we're going to run through today. I have slides, but they're more for me rather than they are for you. The first thing I want to introduce you to is a concept called Scan, Focus, Act. It's a really, really simple brainstorming and project planning framework that works for any project that you might have, whether it is to create a video or to generate resources or to run a campaign or to host an event. But it's 3 really simple stages where you basically capture and articulate all of your ideas and then cascade those ideas into actionables and figure out what are the simple steps involved in your plan. So the 3 phases were scan, focus, and act. And I guess right now, what I'd like you to do is to open a Word document or a piece of paper or a shared document or whatever you like, and to write those 3 words down and to start writing down some notes under scan. So scan is to say what is possible, what is out in the world, what is already being done, what are the gaps, what are the services that you feel students are asking for, what is your mandate that you're elected upon, what is the kind of the core stewardship role of your position that you think is really important. Like, I want you to scan the world, see everything that's out there, and try to capture that as best as you can. I'm going to call upon people to speak after this. So those of you like lurking with your cameras off, you're like definitely way more likely to be summoned. So I strongly encourage you to participate, but I will give you 3 minutes now to do scan. And if you feel like you've done a good scan and you've got your headlines and you know what's important, you can actually step into focus, which is to rank your the things that appear in your scan. What is the #1 most important thing that you can and should do in 2022? What is the #2 thing? What is the #3 thing? You might get 5 things, and then after that, they're all nice to haves, or they're things that we can't do with the available resources. So scanning for 2.5 more minutes.
If anyone writes down rave, it's not happening.
I already wrote it down.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. The rave strategy.
Can I just quickly flag? I'm also in class, so I'm like going to be a bit distracted. So Nick is just going to do God's work or like whatever alternative power he believes in. If it's not God, that power is gender neutral work for podcast. Thank you.
Meet, it's scan, focus,
act.
Okay, I'm going to add them all there.
Thanks, Anna.
Can you please clarify again what they're doing?
So it's a good question, Zane. It's everything. So at the moment, we're going through this process of scan, focus, act for your role or your portfolio or your area of the SRC. And the scanning phase is getting a good understanding of everything that's already happening or that everything that you could do. So this is you like no budget, no limit on time. What is everything that is possible in the universe? And the next step is to focus that down. I guess the thing that's useful about this activity is it's really scalable. So like, I would expect that maybe you would like to do this kind of brainstorming phase with your collective as well. So I just want you to familiarize yourself with the process. So because a lot of the work that you guys do as leaders is to actually set the agenda, but then get your collectives to assist and support and guide you in the actual execution. So I want to give you a framework that really works so that you're able to do that. But in order to know that it works, you need to do it yourself now. So I'll give you guys 1 more minute to do a scan. Awesome. Okay, that's time. Paige Sedgwick, what have you got on your scan list? Love the multitasking. Okay, John. John. Okay, Luca.
Yeah, so like as a counsellor, I don't want to step on the toes of any OBs, but I think that like my way into sort of knowing about the SRC and engaging with the SRC this year kind of started with collectives. And I think that those being important spaces for me. So like first things that I was thinking about was really like as a non-OB, but still like as a member of the council wanting to stay engaged at that kind of level, especially I think like personally for education environment collectives, given the staff like enterprise bargaining agreement at the end of the year, like recent issues around like COP26 and the climate movement, like those kind of activism focuses are really at the forefront of my mind.
Amazing. That is a HD answer. Well done. Thank you.
Hey, Mitch.
Sam Paddington.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to fix my mic. That's why I wasn't talking. But
no worries.
Yeah, so pretty much just wrote down very quickly on what I want to do for next year, which you know, I'm still a first year student for this year and will be a second year for this year. And you know, being a first year for this year, I had to experience like, you know, what first years had to experience, like especially like, you know, just that underlying tone of uncertainty for COVID, and also like not being out as much for socials. And you know, term 1 and term 2 of this year, there wasn't much support for, you know, being social. Like, and I know that there are events and all that for clubs, but what about like, you know, people that are a bit introverted and doesn't really necessarily want to go to campus because of all that. So that's what I want to focus on, having more support for first year students and also having that, you know, a clearer transition from the HSC to what university life is like.
Amazing. John, you're a man after my own heart. That is a great answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll do one more, which is from Sam.
Yeah, so Paddington Rep, so I want to have I think there's a lack of clubs. There's only one life drawing club on campus for art students itself. And I reckon, like, as well as more art speakers and more design speakers, to show more like relevant vocational stuff, like how it's relevant to the career fields, will be very important for students to have on campus. And in saying that, as well as networking with other like excursions to galleries and having more behind the scenes looks with galleries would really help with like design and art students as well.
Amazing. Cool. So your scan has kind of revealed like a connecting role, which is really interesting. It's kind of about networking and facilitation as opposed to the more traditional SRC roles, which are around campaigns, advocacy, and events. So it's really new, and I love that you're forging your own path. So I guess the next step I already foreshadowed a little bit, which was the focus aspect, which is to say, you guys are busy freaking people with a lot on your plate. The focus aspect is really important because you can't do everything. And if you try to do everything, you'll be shit at everything. So you actually have to make some concessions and trade-offs for like what is going to give you bang for your buck. I am in marketing, and the language we use is return on investment. So like, what is going to give you the best return on investment for your time, and what is going to give you your best return on investment for your kind of shoestring student organization budgets, which we're all very familiar with. So you need to look at that list, and I hate it when people vote. Like, I actually think that voting is a really dangerous thing when we're looking at these lists. You actually just need to talk about it and build some consensus with your constituents, and maybe make some trade-offs, and maybe think about, okay, well, if half the people want this and half the people want that, well, we're going to have to probably do both. But how are we going to make that happen? So the focusing step is about balancing your priorities and seeing which is going to give you bang for your buck in terms of return on investment. The third step is the ACT step. And in order to achieve the ACT step, I have another framework, and this one is a quadrant. It's 4 separate boxes. So if you do have a piece of paper in front of you or a Word document open up that quadrant and label each of the 4 boxes. The top left corner is going to have values. The next corner is going to be, the top right corner is going to be tasks. The next bottom right is going to have targets. And the bottom left is support required, or just support is fine as well. So once you've figured out your focus, you can produce this 4-quadrant format for that task. And the idea is that it will give you a 1-page summary of how you're going to achieve whatever you want to achieve. So it's not the Eisenhower matrix, although they do say that, yeah, everything can be put into a 2x2 grid matrix. Anyway, okay, so the values one, I don't want to spend too much time populating today. I think that's a really good activity to do with your collectives and with your constituents, to have a bit of an agreement about what your values are as individuals and what your values are as a group, and how that also feeds into the greater, SRC values and vision and mission that Neonika's already talked about. Kind of what is your, what is the basis that you've been elected on, and what is it that your constituents really do want to see. So those are kind of like your headings, and they're ambitious and they're a little bit ambiguous, and they're kind of themed and qualitative. And you'll figure that out in your own time. And you'll probably have your own like true north values that will always guide you in what you do, whether that is to listen or to be honest or to be authentic or whatever that is. It's got to be unique to you. So then the next box is the one that I think is really important for us today, which is all of the different tasks that are involved in whatever the thing is that you want to do. So like say one of them, for example, might be to like get feedback from students. So all of the tasks involved in getting feedback from students might have lots and lots of different dimensions to it. It could be checking and responding to emails. It could be having a survey. It could be conducting focus groups. It could be getting out on the main walkway and asking people questions face to face. It could be doing what they call like temperature check polls in your weekly email, or temperature check polls in the UNSW discussion group. It could be disseminating your people out into the world and into campus and getting them to produce feedback and bring it back to you. That's just one example of all of the different dimensions of like listening and feedback that you might actually include. But say you have an event, this is all of the core tasks that are going to need to happen in order to achieve that event. And I know Zane's hosted a lot of events this year, so he probably has some pretty good experience as to how long that checklist can possibly be. So if you're hosting an event, Zane, what are some tasks that need to happen in order for that event to be successful?
I mean, the main thing is getting to ARC marketing quickly, and everyone who's involved in planning or funding or promotion in any capacity needs to be like roped in quickly. If you have any performers or any like external people outside of the uni, make sure they're on board. You've secured like payment details, all financial and marketing stuff needs to be sorted out ASAP, basically.
Yeah, I think a really important one that people like me sometimes forget is to book a space. You need to pick a date and book a space. I think people sometimes faff around about that stage of the event because they're like, oh, we're going to do something in maybe later half of the term and it's going to be really fun and catered. And it's like, okay, pick a date, pick a space. Once you've done that, you can start booking everything else. And actually, there's even a step before booking the space is actually to check if the space is even available. So if you have an idea, you need to start finding out where you want to have it, and in order to be a space that people can actually assemble in together safely and happily and all of those kinds of things. And sometimes once you book the space and the day, you can like tinker with the time a little bit, like change it from a 4 to 6 to a 5 to 7 or whatever. But the space and the day is like just so critical for your events. Something that you guys will be doing, resources for events, tables, microphones, tablecloths, chairs, like every little thing that you can think of, write it down, because you don't want to get to the day of the event and be like, oh shit, where are my rainbow flags? And like, because that's when you run into my office. And if I'm not there, you're not getting any rainbow flags. So write down as many little things that you can possibly think of. For something like a campaign, that's challenging as well, because you're going to need to think of like, where are you going to get the resources from? Where are you going to generate the content from? Who is going to design the content? What brief do they need? All of those different elements are all of your tasks that get involved. So can everyone take 2 minutes now to brainstorm as many tasks related to one of their focus activities now?
Hey Mitch, sorry, could you please repeat that instruction?
Totally. So we've just talked about like, we've got this four square grid, and we've gone from the scan, focus, act, and we've picked something from focus. So like one of the activities that we want to run, and we're going to start putting in all of the tasks that are related to that. So like Rosie, you are Indigenous officer. Maybe you want to have a kick-ass NAIDOC week activation on campus. What is that? What are all the tasks that are going to be involved in making that happen?
That's a really big event.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to think of like a medium-sized one.
Yeah.
Maybe one of yours is like black unsweetened, Rosie.
Yeah,
or,
something like that.
Yarning circle or something like that. Okay, I'll give you 90 more seconds because I'm super generous. Sweet. Okay, so we're kind of rushing through this today, which I love this condensed format. It does for, diamonds form under pressure. So it's good. It's good to work through these things quickly. So I'd like to hear from Situ from the international office. Would you like to speak to the tasks that you put on your list, please?
I have a class going on, so there might be noise behind, but I chose an employability panel that I kind of wanted to do in terms of deciding on the speakers, who they are, what kind of area that I want to focus on, if the speakers would involve any kind of cost, and the platform, either online or in person. If it's in person, where it would be, if it would involve catering, and also marketing, posters, any kind of event page or cover page, and so on.
Yeah, love it. Amazing. And you got to book a space.
Yes.
And you've got to pick a date. Good. Okay, that's great. And just because you're on my screen, Mahin. Do we have another multitasker? How about Reed?
Sure. So one of my ones was, since I'm in the Welfare Collective, potentially doing a video guide for incoming first years, just about uni. And so I've broken that down into these tasks. So writing a script, determining shoot locations and booking spaces if need to be, organizing a when to meet, just for friends to meet and shoot on campus, then having wet weather plans or multiple days just in case.
Excellent.
Then editing, publishing on Facebook, Instagram, reaching out to ARC for promos potentially, especially for the Instagram.
Yeah.
And then collecting feedback after that with surveys.
Excellent. That's super detailed. Excellent. Perfect. I think the thing that you're probably noticing is that it doesn't matter whether it's an event or a campaign or an activity or part of your role that's just, answering student inquiries that might come to the inbox. But this kind of project planning mindset is really helpful. And I think it will set you in good stead for literally anything that you ever do in the rest of your life. Like, I think that often staff or students that are in student organizations, a lot of what we do is events, but the extrapolation out of events is that if you can run an event is just a type of project. So if you can execute an event project, you can execute any project, and it's a really awesome skill to have, and it's a skill to build on. And we scale our operations all the time. You start with a speaker event, and you never know, it could become a week-long festival, it could become a microsite, it could become a series of resources in a campaign. Like, these things kind of scale upwards, and you just use the same principles across all of them. Oh, this afternoon light is just making my eyes look amazing. I'm so obsessed with it. Okay, so the next quadrant after tasks was targets, which is measures of success. Generally, we try to have like clear measures of success that are SMART goals, but sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes it's not practical, and sometimes it's not reasonable. So it's okay to put anything as your target, but do try to have some sort of target, and try to think about what the ancillary or like peripheral targets need to be in order to reach that target. So for example, if you're running a speaker event and you want to get 50 people there, maybe you need to get 200 people to click attending on Facebook. We know that there's about 50% drop-off rate of people getting an Eventbrite ticket and actually coming to an event. So you probably want to get 100 people getting Eventbrite tickets in order to get 50 people to your event. You might want to measure based on satisfaction. So you want to get a 90% satisfaction rate, which means that you need everyone who came to the event to see your actual survey in order to get it in the end. You might we always put, like in my projects, I always put some objectives around like positive rapport, and I like want to build a profile of any page or brand that's related to what I'm doing. So try to keep track of like if there's extra Instagram likes or follows that happen. We can track down website hits through Google Analytics for you, so you can understand the number of people accessing resources. You know, and a key objective might be to grow the collective by 20%. But in order to grow at 20%, you need to have, you know, 5% growth each term. So it's really helpful to break things down to the smallest possible bite in order to get a sense of what small jobs need to happen in order to be successful. And sometimes when you're doing this like measures and targets activity, it can make you realize, oh, I'm actually going to have to put even more detail into my tasks because I didn't account for the video production, putting subtitles on the video or something like that might be something that gets included. So for whatever task that you've got, can you please try to write down 3 objectives? Hey, Tristan, if you've just joined us, we are doing a bit of like preemptive planning for the term or for the year ahead. And what we are doing is we have made like a goal that we want to happen, or a core task or a core activity that's part of what we do. And we've then broken that activity down into sub activities or checkpoints, in order to get an understanding of all the little things that need to happen in order for our event to be successful. And now we're cascading that one step further, which is like, what are our measures of success? And they can be qualitative and quantitative.
Okay, thanks. I was just in a tutorial, so just
no worries. All right, Gina, are you available to let us know some of your measures of success or objectives?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Cool. Well, I don't know, it kind of depends, I guess, on like what's possible. So like I usually try and organize activism and protests. So for there, it's like sometimes there'll be small protests and we're kind of realistic about that, or bigger protests. So like in terms of like bigger protests, I guess like an example of that was like the protests in Sydney in solidarity with Palestine. So like one measure of success obviously is like how big the protest is. Like we'd love to get as many people as possible. Another thing I think is just like how many people can you get involved in like organizing in an ongoing way. So that's another thing of success. And then I guess as well, like, yeah, how popular can you make the issue as well through the protest. So I reckon those are a few things that I'm trying to achieve.
Awesome. So good. Look, and I think that is really important. It's like we use these activities as a guide in order to produce great results. It's not the be all and end all. There's not some sort of horrific like do or die accountability mechanism that you like aimed for 100 attendees and you only got 90. Like we aim for the moon so we can land amongst the stars, and we use them to figure out like what are our priorities as well. And I actually think you've got such an important one that you've mentioned, which is to build a community. And there's a lot of different dimensions and tasks that happen from building a community. A really important one is like, how do you kick it off? Like, how do you get people to, I just had a Pepsi Max, so I'm really burpy. How do you get people to come at that first activity where you get them to meet each other and have a fantastic time? Such an important thing for that event to put on your checklist is name tags. Like name tags make the world go round when you have a face-to-face event for the first time. You get a sense that everybody's new, that everyone's meeting other people, like just little things like that sit so nicely under your master goal of to build a community of regular participants. Awesome. Thank you, Gina. And maybe I will call on Leora.
Muted.
You're on mute.
Hi. My main thing, and like I spoke about it a lot when I was campaigning, is I really just want to develop community. So for any event, the one I was doing for the task was I really would like to have queer sex education. And so a measure of my success for that would be looking at participation, but so much more than looking at participation, because that is something that could be quite uncomfortable for a lot of people to go to, or it could be difficult to access, is feedback. So having some sort of feedback form at the end where people can say which parts they appreciated, which parts they didn't, like how their level of comfort and their level of safety and something like that. And looking at that and looking at how we did on making people feel like it's a safe space. Making them feel like they're learning the things that they actually want to learn, so that we can make like a better program for the next year as well, would be more of a measure of success to me than how many people we can get.
Awesome. So good. I just put a link in the chat, which is from ARC Wellness. It's just fresh in my mind because we just did an analysis of the ARC website hits. And under wellness, the #1 most visited resource page was sex. So I actually think that there's a really big gap, but a really big potential to provide better peer-to-peer information in there without it being too like heavy-handed, like I'm your peer, come hug me situation. Like it's that friendly, accessible, no pressure and private way of communicating important information. That's awesome. Cool. And actually that pivots me really nicely to the last quadrant, which is support, which is like, what resources do you need in order to make this successful? Usually it's a list of stakeholders that might be like Roundhouse to book the event. It might be marketing to get your events collateral in. It might be members of the collective to volunteer on the night. It might be external stakeholders. It might be a local member. It might be, you know, the Sydney Palestine Solidarity Collective or whatever that looks like. Like, you're going to have a list of people that you want to engage and that are going to help you achieve your goals. And they're also going to have a role in there. Like I mentioned in my introduction earlier today, that like ARC Marketing is a resource or a service provider to you guys who are clients. So like, we're going to help you achieve your goals, but like, you've got to come and ask us to do that as well. So, you know, really build out that list of people that are going to support you. If you can put names and contact information on that list, then you are giving yourself a huge head start. And that should be a really big part of your handover meeting, is like, who do I need to know? What are they like? How do I work well with them? It's going to set you up for success in achieving any of your goals. So that's literally all that I have for today. So the 2 key takeaways, it's all numbers. 2 key takeaways. The first one is 3 things: scan, focus, act. And the second thing is 4 quadrants. They're tried and true methods for executing and succeeding at any project. From there, you can go into way more granular detail. You can use project managing software. You can use Share Docs. You can use Excel, whatever you want to use. But those 2 methods are tried and true. I swear my life on them. And if they don't work, you can come like bother me at my desk and tell me that it didn't work and we can figure out why. I think a really important thing to keep in mind is debrief. Doesn't matter how big or small anything that you do is, it's a really great habit, and the language that they use is cadence. A really good cadence is to debrief things, and to debrief them in a very general, flatly structured way is so good as well. It's to open up the conversation. It's like, what do we think was successful? What can we improve on for next time? Keeping that documentation, putting it in the handover is going to set your followers up for success and set yourself up for success when you repeat things as well. Did anyone have any questions on any of this stuff?
I want to add before I forget, I know you said you have a presentation just for you, but because we collate this handbook we'll put on the website, if you can send me those like notes so I can add them there, so people can access them like anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. I will do that right now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch.
No worries. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone. It's been wonderful to get to know you all. Can't wait to see you on campus. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And I think we're good to go for our lunch break. Half an hour. Everyone is good? Yes, and we'll be back at 1:15 for our handover session. Rosie, you are more than welcome to leave.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Rosie.
Okay, we'll see everyone back in like half an hour.